Phoenix Knights. Chapter 33:11. With a broken sword in his hand, a warrior wearing black armor and a helmet stood quietly opposite Gu Fei and Sun Quebec. He was a middle-aged warrior with a sharp gaze that was staring at Gu Fei and Sun Quebec. The warrior's murderous aura was so heavy that it could be seen with the naked eye. However, experts like Gu Fei and Sun Ke saw it differently. The warrior's murderous aura rose, and there seemed to be countless living beings struggling and screaming in the air. Such a scene was rather frightening. It was as though countless living beings were in hell. If a cultivator with a weaker cultivation base were to see this phenomenon around this warrior, they would have been so scared that their legs would have turned to jelly. How would they dare to fight this warrior? Of course, the phenomenon didn't affect Gu Fei and Sun Ke at all. You still dare to come back? The warrior's gaze landed on Sun Quebec. He didn't say anything, but a voice rang in Gu Fei and Sun Ke's mind. This was a communication at the divine sense level. There was no need for words. Haha, this isn't some tiger's den. Why wouldn't I dare to come back? Sun Ke laughed. He flipped his right hand and a broken sword appeared in his hand. The sword was surrounded by a divine light and exuded a powerful murderous aura. The moment the broken sword appeared, it vibrated. If Sun Ke hadn't used his divine power to suppress the broken sword in his hand, it would have flown out of his hand. At that moment, the other half of the broken sword in the warrior's hand vibrated as well. The two halves of the sword resonated and wanted to fuse together. Humph, since you're back, don't even think about leaving this time. After saying that, the war fighter took a step forward and instantly disappeared into the void. His speed was extremely fast. At the same time, Sun Ke also disappeared in the air. The two experts moved quickly in the air. They were so fast that one couldn't even see their shadows. Only experts at Gu Fei's level could see the two experts moving rapidly in the void. Boom! The two experts rushed up into the sky and their fists collided, causing a huge explosion. A powerful shockwave spread out, shaking the heavens and earth. Transparent ripples that could be seen with the naked eye appeared in the sky above. This was a continuation of the previous battle. The reason why Sun Ke retreated that day was because he was besieged. But this time, he wasn't afraid of being besieged. High up in the sky, a powerful aura spread out, causing the entire region to tremble. Such a commotion naturally alarmed the other living beings on this side of the battlefield. This was the Sky Region battlefield, a special existence within the ancestral god realm. It could be said to be a peerlessly dangerous land, but it could also be said to be a supreme blessed land, because opportunities and dangers coexisted here. A dangerous land and a spiritual land intersected. To be more accurate, this Sky Region battlefield was like a destroyed world. In a sense, only by walking out of this battlefield could one be considered to have entered the ancestral god realm. The Sky Region battlefield was above the ninth heaven of the ancestral god realm. It was not a place that ordinary cultivators could set foot in. Those who could enter this battlefield were all peerless experts, possessing extremely tyrannical cultivation and combat strength. These existences risked their lives to enter this place in order to increase their cultivation. Therefore, all the creatures that appeared in the Sky Region battlefield were peerless experts. There was not a single weakling, because the weaklings had all been eliminated by the strong. In the Sky Region battlefield, it was difficult for the weak to survive. Only the strong could survive. Even if the strong didn't attack, the weak would eventually die in this battlefield. What's going on? That guy from before is here again. At this moment, in a distant mountain ridge, in a cave that was spewing endless death chi, a tyrannical divine sense rippled out. Then, a terrifying figure faintly appeared in the cave, and two blood-red lights flickered in the endless death chi. Good fella, he still dares to come back. In another direction, on the peak of a towering mountain, a figure with towering demonic aura was sitting cross-legged. This was a powerful demon god. The demon god immediately stood up. Swoosh! A pair of divine wings appeared on his back. It was a unique pair of divine wings. The divine wings on the mysterious demon god's back were a pair of peculiar divine wings. The divine wing on the right was pure white and crystal. Every feather radiated with divine light. The wing on the left was surrounded by demonic aura, emitting a monstrous demonic aura. Divine and demonic aura appeared on the same creature. This shocked Gu Fei. He immediately sensed the existence of these two experts. They were existences no weaker than Sang Quebec. There were actually so many existences close to the extreme path's supreme level here. This was truly unbelievable to Gu Fei. No wonder Sun Ke fled back to the Chaos Demon realm in such a sorry state. There were actually so many incomparably powerful existences in this sky region battlefield. Even Sun Ke had to retreat. At this time, the demon god and the dead spirit had already arrived nearby. Two powerful figures appeared in the distant sky. They also noticed Gu Fei standing on the peak of the mountain. This guy has brought a helper this time. The demon god could not help but feel shocked when he sensed Gu Fei's aura. He could not see through this human's cultivation level. How was this possible? The dead spirit was the same. He could not see through Gu Fei's cultivation level either. At this time, Gu Fei used a secret technique to completely conceal his aura. The demon god and the dead spirit could not see through his cultivation level. In this way, the demon god and the dead spirit did not dare to act rashly. Previously, when they teamed up with the warrior, they almost captured Sang Quebec. But now, Sang Ke had a helper. It seemed that this helper's cultivation level and battle prowess were not weak. After all, when the demon god and the dead spirit's cultivation level and battle prowess reached their level, they could see through anyone's cultivation level. Even if it was an expert of the same level, they could see through the other party's cultivation level at a glance. This guy must have cultivated some kind of secret technique that could conceal his aura. Apart from the demon god and the dead spirit, the battle between Sun Ke and the warrior had alarmed other living beings as well. However, when they sensed the aura of Sun Ke and the warrior, they immediately retreated and left the area. Apart from the demon god and the dead spirit, no one else dared to come and watch the battle. Sensing that the living beings in the distance were retreating even further away, Gu Fei was a little surprised. After all, a battle of this level was something that could only be chanced upon. If it was any other cultivators, they would have already swarmed over. Chapter 33:12. Gu Fei sensed the aura of an old friend in the heavenly battlefield. He wanted to go and meet them, but the dead spirit and the demon god stopped him. How dare you! You should be thanking the gods for not looking for trouble with me. How dare you stop me? You're courting death. Gu Fei was furious. He directly displayed the chaotic fist and fought with the dead spirit and the demon god. In an instant, 3 tyrannical auras broke out. As the 3 auras collided, the entire sky seemed like it was about to explode. Pitch-black spatial cracks constantly appeared in the void. Wherever the 3 figures passed, the void was directly smashed, and the chaotic energy was shot out. Even the extremely stable heavenly battlefield's nearby area still suffered a great impact. Boom! A figure with a monstrous aura and divine aura was directly blasted away and quickly collided with a stone mountain in the distance. With a loud bang, the stone mountain was directly blasted apart, causing rubble and dust to soar into the sky. Roar! An angry roar was heard as the figure with a monstrous aura and divine aura directly rushed out from the soaring dust. Kill! The demon god roared and blasted a punch towards Gu Fei. The demon god's power was vast and showed a terrifying power. A large area of the void was smashed by the fist. The demon god blasted out a punch with an invincible fist intent. It was as if the demon god's fist was the only thing between heaven and earth. Even Gu Fei couldn't help but be moved by its destructive power. You want to fight with me? You're not good enough. Gu Fei did not dodge and also blasted out a punch. A terrifying chaotic fist force erupted from his fist. Boom! With a loud bang, the 2 fists collided in an instant. It was as terrifying as 2 ancient divine mountains colliding together. A transparent ripple visible to the naked eye spread between the 2 experts. The next moment, the entire void was directly annihilated. The next moment, the sound of bones breaking rang out, and a figure was sent flying. The person who was blasted away was the demon god. Although his demon god power was powerful, it was not comparable to Gu Fei's chaotic martial body. Gu Fei's chaotic martial body was stronger than his demon god body. Damn it! Although demon god Venerable was unwilling, his opponent was indeed stronger than him. It was not a coincidence that he was sent flying. It was inevitable. Trying to fight me head-on? You're really stupid, Gu Fei said disdainfully. And at the same time, when Paragon Demon God was sent flying by a punch from Gu Fei, that undead spirit, also known as Undying Underworld Emperor of the Sky Domain Battlefield, arrived. A bone spear tore through the void and pierced towards the forehead of Gu Fei. Gu Fei did not dodge. Instead, he allowed that bone spear to pierce through his forehead. At the next moment, Undying Underworld Emperor was stunned. He saw that even though the bone spear in his hand had pierced into Gu Fei, he felt as though he had stabbed into an undying god metal. Not only could he not pierce through, he was even jolted so much that cracks appeared on his palm. How could this be? Undying Underworld Emperor was stunned to the extreme. Nonetheless, at the same time when he was stunned, Gu Fei extended his left hand and grabbed hold of that bone spear. After that, he slapped out with his right palm at Undying Underworld Emperor. This was the heaven-covering hand. It enveloped the entire place. Undying Underworld Emperor could not evade this palm of Gu Fei at all. Undying Underworld Emperor wanted to retract his bone spear that was grabbed by Gu Fei, but that bone spear seemed to have taken root in Gu Fei's left hand. He could not pull it out at all. How preposterous! At this moment, Gu Fei's heaven-covering hand had already slapped out. Undying Underworld Emperor had no choice but to let go of his hand. After that, he used all his strength to parry against Gu Fei's heaven-covering hand. Hong! Undying Underworld Emperor was directly blasted away. If you want it, I'll return it to you, Gu Fei chuckled. He then smashed out that bone spear in his hand. Shwa! That bone spear immediately turned into a light of death. It pierced through the retreating Undying Underworld Emperor, nailing him in the void. This Paragon Demon God was incomparably shocked when he saw this scene. At this moment, Gu Fei could no longer sense the aura of that old friend. This infuriated him. The two of you bastards die! Gu Fei roared. He directly charged at Paragon Demon God and Undying Underworld Emperor. A powerful primal chaos energy erupted from his body. It was not easy for him to meet an old friend, yet these fellows actually dared to spoil his plans. They truly deserved to die. Gu Fei attacked furiously. That was no small matter. One could see him unleashing his primal chaos fist. An unparalleled fist intent erupted, forcing Undying Underworld Emperor and Paragon Demon God back once again. That powerful fleshy body of Undying Underworld Emperor had even shattered in the void. That bone spear of his had formed many fine cracks that looked like spider webs. Even though that Paragon Demon God was incredibly powerful, he was still struck by Gu Fei until he coughed out blood. He had suffered a huge impact. The consequences of offending Gu Fei were severe. These two fellows deserved to be unlucky. High in the sky, Sun Ke, who was currently fighting with that absolute warrior, felt delighted when he saw this scene. He naturally knew how powerful Undying Underworld Emperor and Paragon Demon God were. But when he saw Undying Underworld Emperor and Paragon Demon God suffering in the hands of Gu Fei, he felt incomparably delighted. That day, he was defeated by these three experts and had no choice but to escape back to the primal chaos devil world. The cultivation and combat power of the three supreme experts in the Sky Domain battlefield were extraordinary. Every one of them had the combat power to fight against Saint-Quebec. Their origins were not simple either. That absolute warrior was a battle ancestor. He lived by battling and was wholeheartedly pursuing the ultimate power. As for that Undying Underworld Emperor, he was reborn from the corpse of a supreme that had fallen in the Sky Domain battlefield. He was no longer a supreme in the past, but his cultivation was so powerful that it made Battle Ancestor and Paragon Demon God feel apprehensive. But now, Gu Fei could actually defeat the two supreme experts working together. He had even shattered the fleshy body of Undying Underworld Emperor. This combat power had moved the expressions of Paragon Demon God and Battle Ancestor. Even though Undying Underworld Emperor's fleshy body had been shattered by Gu Fei, he did not fall. He was known as Undying and naturally would not die so easily. Roar! A deep roar reverberated in the void. The fleshy body of Undying Underworld Emperor, which was shattered by Gu Fei, reassembled. A powerful figure appeared in the void. Outsider, you've angered me. Undying Underworld Emperor walked out from the void. He extended his right hand, causing that bone spear to fly back into his hand. He stared at Gu Fei. His entire body was filled with killing intent. Ha ha! Gu Fei laughed. What are you laughing at? Undying Underworld Emperor had a sullen expression. He stared at Gu Fei and said, I'm laughing at your stupidity. This daddy is stronger than you. Even if I angered you, what can you do to this daddy? Gu Fei said with disdain. You. Chapter 33:13. Gu Fei's strength had exceeded the expectations of Undying Underworld Emperor and that demon god. It had been so many years since they met such a powerful existence. No wonder that fellow dared to cross over again. It turned out that he had found such a helper. At this moment, Undying Underworld Emperor and the other experts in the Sky Domain battlefield finally understood why Sun Ke was so fearless. This time, it was impossible for him to chase them back. The Sky Domain battlefield was a place left behind from the previous war. More than one extreme Tao existence had fallen here. Even if those extreme Tao existences fell, they would still take the lives of others. The remnant laws of extreme Tao were spread across the entire Sky Domain battlefield. If someone was unlucky enough to trigger these laws, that person would definitely be exterminated in both body and spirit. Of course, there were many safe zones in the Sky Domain battlefield. There were even immortal spiritual grounds hidden within. There were also cavern dwellings of ancient supreme experts buried here. Therefore, the Heaven Region battlefield was never lacking in living beings, because the experts of the ancestral god realm would come to this battlefield to search for the fortunes within. Some of the ancient existences would choose to enter the Sky Domain battlefield to cultivate in seclusion in order to break through the shackles of their cultivation. That John Ancestor was such an existence. He had lived for an uncountable period, and his cultivation was close to reaching the extreme Tao realm. Nonetheless, he could not take that step. The John Ancestor's battle strength was extremely powerful. Even an existence like Sun Ke would find it difficult to defeat him. That day, it was this John Ancestor who stabbed Sun Ke with his sword. Even his peerless ominous sword was broken, leaving half of the ominous sword on Sun Ke's body. At this moment, Sun Ke no longer had to worry about being ganged up on. He completely let loose and fought against John Ancestor. He held on to that broken sword as he fought against John Ancestor. Despicable fellow! John Ancestor's fighting intent surged. The broken sword in his hand shot out sword lights that tore through the void. Every single sword light displayed a supreme power that destroyed the void. But such a powerful sword Tao killing technique could hardly injure Sun Ke at all. Because Sun Ke also had half a broken sword in his hand. The sword light that erupted from the broken sword was not any weaker than the sword light of John Ancestor. Two different kinds of sword Tao power were fighting. The sword light shot up tens of thousands of feet, and everywhere it passed, everything was destroyed. Everything in the way of the sword light was instantly destroyed. Sun Ke was also a sword Tao expert. That day, he was too sullen. He was surrounded by Zhan Zhu and the others and had no choice but to leave in defeat. However, it was different now. He could finally let out the resentment he had been holding in his chest. And at this moment, Gu Fei was currently facing off against two ultra-powerful experts. Even though Undying Underworld Emperor and Paragon Demon God were forced back, the aura erupting from their bodies became stronger. If it wasn't for the fact that the void in the Sky Region battlefield was stable enough, the void around them would have long been shattered by the powerful energy fluctuations coming from their bodies. Come at me together! Gu Fei looked at Undying Underworld Emperor and Paragon Demon God with disdain. Undying Underworld Emperor and Paragon Demon God exchanged glances before acting at the same time. At this moment, they no longer dared to be negligent. This outsider was absolutely much stronger than the one they had repelled previously. Shwa! The bone spear in the hand of Undying Underworld Emperor turned into an undying death light. It instantly pierced through the body of Gu Fei. Its speed was incredibly fast. Kung Chang! Just as Gu Fei was about to be pierced through by this bone spear, a sword light suddenly rushed out from his body and fiercely slashed against that bone spear. The undying death light that pierced through was repelled by the sword light that came out from Gu Fei's body. Gu Fei grabbed onto that sword light. A black sword immediately appeared in his hand. An incomparably sharp sword chi fluctuation immediately spread out from that black sword. The frigid sword chi caused the surrounding temperature to rapidly fall. At the next moment, the black sword in Gu Fei's hand moved. A sky-piercing sword light immediately slashed down on the incoming Paragon Demon God. When the sword light descended, a spatial crack 500 kilometers long was formed in the void. What? The extremely sharp sword light descended from the sky, giving Paragon Demon God a huge shock. He immediately rushed to the side. At the same time, a Dao weapon rushed out from his body and instantly became bigger. Kung Chang! The sword light that descended from the sky slashed on that Dao weapon, emitting a sound of metal clashing. That Dao weapon had actually blocked against the sword of Gu Fei. The power of the Yao divinity burst out from the Dao artifact. It was a great hammer. That was a Dao weapon that Paragon Demon God had refined for many years. It was called Demon God Hammer. This was a quasi-extreme Dao weapon that was close to an extreme Dao weapon. It was incredibly powerful. At this moment, Paragon Demon God rushed into the sky and grabbed hold of that huge hammer. After that, he waved the huge hammer in his hand and bellowed at Gu Fei. Hong long long! The Demon God hammer in Paragon Demon God's hand smashed down from the sky. It was just like a huge mountain coming down from the sky. The powerful energy ripple caused the entire world to tremble. Humph! Gu Fei sneered. The black sword in his hand directly pierced towards the Demon God hammer. The sharp sword light directly broke through the layers of Demon God energy and pierced on the Demon God hammer. Kung Chang! A sound of metal clashing could be heard. The black sword in Gu Fei's hand had actually blocked against the mountain-like Demon God hammer. One could see the Demon God hammer pressing down on the black sword in Gu Fei's hand, causing the body of the black sword to bend. The black sword in Gu Fei's hand trembled. Specks of starlight emerged on the surface of the sword. The power of the black sword was recovering. An even more powerful sword energy ripple erupted from the sword. This is... At this moment, Undying Underworld Emperor saw a phenomenon appearing on the black sword in Gu Fei's hand. There seemed to be a starry sky faintly appearing on the sword. 9 heaven star iron? Paragon Demon God exclaimed. He immediately kept the Demon God hammer before rapidly retreating. At the same time, that Undying Underworld Emperor had already forced his way over to Gu Fei. The bone spear in his hand erupted with a tyrannical energy ripple. He could unleash a fatal strike on Gu Fei at any moment. That Undying Underworld Emperor was ultimately an absolute expert. If Gu Fei wanted to rely on his cultivation and combat strength to fight with him, he had to be careful. He did not use the power of an extreme Dao weapon. Naturally, if Gu Fei were to use the power of an extreme Dao weapon, he could easily defeat these two fellows. But this way, he would not be able to achieve his goal of tempering himself. The reason why he did not return through the Hell Dao was because he wanted to find the pathway connecting the primal chaos devil world, or the ancestral god world to the human realm. That way, he would be able to make use of the superpower he established in the primal chaos devil world. Bringing along a group of subordinates to kill his way back would absolutely be an incomparably eye-catching matter. Chapter 33:14. When Gu Fei fought against Paragon Demon God and Undying Underworld Emperor, even though he had the upper hand, it was not easy for him to defeat the two supreme existences in the sky domain battlefield. He used the 9 Heaven Star sword that he had not used for a long time. This was a Tao weapon that he refined himself. After refining it countless times, this Tao weapon had gradually evolved into a quasi-supreme sword. This 9 Heaven Star sword was refined by Gu Fei using the 9 Heaven Star iron. The 9 Heaven Star iron was an undying God iron that even extreme Tao supremes would covet. Even if it was not an extreme Tao weapon, the sword refined using the undying God iron could not be underestimated. This made Paragon Demon God and Undying Underworld Emperor feel apprehensive. Kill! At this moment, Paragon Demon God roared. The Demon God hammer in his hand directly slammed down on Gu Fei. That demon hammer became as big as a mountain. It emitted a demon god energy ripple that spread in all directions. Hong long long. A dull sound could be heard nearby. One could see dust rising into the sky. Many mountain peaks began collapsing under the intense tremors. Eat my sword! Gu Fei roared out. The 9 Heaven Star sword in his hand immediately turned into a resplendent sword light. It rushed into the sky and slashed down on the demon god hammer. Clang! A clear metallic clanging sound could be heard. The 9 Heaven Star sword in Gu Fei's hand erupted with a supreme sword aura that broke through the layers of force coming down from the sky. It clashed with the demon god hammer. A powerful sword Tao energy erupted. That mountain-sized demon god hammer was actually repelled by this sword of Gu Fei. What? Paragon Demon God was indescribably shocked. He would never have thought that this sword of Gu Fei would be so powerful. The demon god hammer in his hand actually flew out of his hand. His wrist was torn apart, with blood essence seeping out from the wound. At the next moment, an even more powerful energy surged out from Paragon Demon God's hand. That torn part of his wrist was actually recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye. At the same time, Undying Underworld Emperor also rushed over. His spear penetrated through the void and arrived before Gu Fei. Shua! Gu Fei's figure suddenly turned blurred. It was as if he had fused with the void of the world. The bone spear pierced by Undying Underworld Emperor directly penetrated through his body. At this moment, the one who was most shocked was Undying Underworld Emperor. He felt as though the bone spear in his hand had pierced into thin air. He could not exert any force at all. At the same time, when Undying Underworld Emperor was startled, that illusory right hand of Gu Fei suddenly turned corporeal. It directly slammed onto the chest of Undying Underworld Emperor. Boom! Kacha! A dull clashing sound and the sound of bones shattering could be heard at the same time. Undying Underworld Emperor was sent flying by this palm of Gu Fei more than 30 kilometers away. His entire chest exploded. A huge hole was blasted out by Gu Fei. This sudden scene shocked Paragon Demon God. This outsider was too powerful. He actually blasted away Undying Underworld Emperor once again, and heavily injured the fleshy body of Undying Underworld Emperor. At the same time, Gu Fei's figure had completely disappeared from the void. He could no longer be seen. What? Paragon Demon God was startled when he saw this scene. This outsider had actually disappeared. Even with his cultivation, he could hardly sense the existence of this outsider. Roar! At this moment, Undying Underworld Emperor roared out. He was furious. He was once again heavily injured by Gu Fei. This was something he could not accept. One had to know that he was one of the strongest existences in the entire sky domain battlefield. Endless death energy erupted from the body of Undying Underworld Emperor. That fleshy body, which was nearly blasted into two by Gu Fei, was rapidly recovering. His flesh and bones were regenerating. Hong long long. A sound like muffled thunder could be heard coming from the body of Undying Underworld Emperor. Many death Tao patterns were interweaving on his body. In just a few breaths of time, that fleshy body of his had completely recovered. Of course, even if his fleshy body had recovered to a perfect state, his combat strength would still be affected. The sudden disappearance of Gu Fei had made Undying Underworld Emperor incredibly nervous. Where did that fellow go? Undying Underworld Emperor transmitted to Paragon Demon God. How would I know? Paragon Demon God said unhappily. I do want to see where you can hide. As Undying Underworld Emperor spoke, a ray of death light shot out from his forehead. A death eye appeared between his eyebrows. After that, it swept across his surroundings. This death eye could see through all fabrications and illusions. It could even see through the void of the world with a single glance. Nonetheless, it was precisely the secret technique that Paragon Demon God could not see where Gu Fei was. This startled Undying Underworld Emperor ineffably. The other party's secret technique was absolutely more profound than his. This was unquestionably so. He's behind you! Undying Underworld Emperor suddenly shouted out to Paragon Demon God. What? This time, Paragon Demon God was incredibly startled. He did not dare to turn around. Instead, he immediately rushed forward with all his might. He wanted to pull apart the distance between him and Gu Fei. But Gu Fei possessed the fastest movement technique in the world. Paragon Demon God could not shake off Gu Fei at all. At the next moment, Paragon Demon God felt the back of his neck tightening. It felt as if he was hooked by an iron hoop. After that, he was lifted up by another person. A powerful force came from the other party's hand that actually sealed his strength. You! Paragon Demon God's forehead was dripping with sweat. He was actually captured by that outsider. This was simply unimaginable. Seeing this scene, Undying Underworld Emperor was dumbfounded. One had to know that nobody was clearer than him how powerful and frightening Paragon Demon God was. This fellow had perfectly fused his deity energy and demonic energy together, forming the demonic god energy that was stronger than both. It was precisely because of this that Paragon Demon God could become one of the strongest existences in the Sky Domain battlefield. At this moment, Paragon Demon God was desperately urging the demonic god energy in his body in an attempt to shake off the hand that was grabbing onto his neck from Gu Fei. But Gu Fei's hand seemed to have taken root at the back of his neck. No matter how much he mobilized the demonic god energy, he could not shake off the other party's hand. And what made Paragon Demon God's heart palpitate was the tyrannical energy coming from the other party's hand. That energy had directly sealed Paragon Demon God. One after another, primal chaos Tao patterns appeared on the body of Paragon Demon God. Every time a primal chaos Tao pattern appeared, a portion of his energy would be sealed. At the moment when the 9th primal chaos Tao pattern appeared on his body, his tyrannical energy was completely sealed by the 9 great primal chaos Tao patterns. This fellow! When Undying Underworld Emperor saw this, he immediately turned around and fled. In an instant he disappeared from the dusky world. Preposterous! Paragon Demon God could not help but feel furious when he saw Undying Underworld Emperor escaping. It was too much of a scam to have such a teammate. Do you wish to live or die? At this moment, a voice resounded in the heart of Paragon Demon God. Nonsense! Who in this world wishes to die? Paragon Demon God angrily replied. You are currently a prisoner. Be more careful with your words. Don't be presumptuous in front of me. Gu Fei tightened his grip on the nape of Paragon Demon God's neck. As he tightened his grip, Paragon Demon God became unlucky. His neck was nearly broken by Gu Fei. This made his forehead perspire once again. I wish to live. Paragon Demon God knew that an existence like Gu Fei who was decisive in killing would decide his life and death with a single thought from the other party. Naturally, Paragon Demon God did not wish to die in the hands of Gu Fei. Since you wish to live, there is only one possibility, Gu Fei said. What possibility? Paragon Demon God hurriedly replied. This matter concerned his life and death. He would not joke around with his little life. The possibility of becoming my servant. Only then can you live. Gu Fei's words did not contain any emotion. What? Paragon Demon God immediately exclaimed when he heard that. This fellow actually wanted him to become his servant, and be ordered around by him. How could he do that? However, if he did not do that, he would die. It was too difficult to make a choice. On one hand, it was his dignity, and on the other hand, it was his life. Some people valued dignity more than life, but there were also people who valued life first. They would do anything in order to survive. For the demon god Venerable, survival was the most important thing. "If you don't agree, then you can die," Gu Fei said casually. Although Paragon Demon God was powerful, if the other party did not want to be his servant, then he would have to kill this fellow. Gu Fei had a plan to bring a large group of underlings back to the human realm. At that time, those guys from the human realm and heaven realm would definitely have a good look on their faces. Therefore, Gu Fei kept subduing those powerful creatures, even the experts among the demons. While subduing underlings and honing himself, Gu Fei actually enjoyed this kind of cultivation method. He knew that whether it was the demons he subdued in the Chaos Demon realm, or the experts in the Ancestral God realm that he wanted to subdue, they were a force that could change the power structure of the human realm and heaven realm. Troubled times were coming, that was for sure. Only by mastering powerful forces could one survive in troubled times. "Don't I agree? Master, I'll serve you as my master. Is that okay?" Paragon Demon God said hurriedly. "Very well, don't resist. As your master, I have to leave a mark on your body," Gu Fei said. "What?" Paragon Demon God was dumbfounded when he heard that. He knew that he was really done for this time. This fellow must be putting a restrictive spell on him. He guessed it right. Gu Fei directly used the godly seizing secret technique and left a mark on Paragon Demon God's divine soul. Paragon Demon God's life and death were in his hands. As long as Paragon Demon God disobeyed, Gu Fei could destroy his soul with just a thought. Chapter 33:15. Gu Fei had easily captured Paragon Demon God by relying on his elusive techniques. Furthermore, he had planted a seal on Paragon Demon God's body, successfully subduing the strongest expert in the Sky Domain battlefield. Paragon Demon God's reputation was not small in the Sky Domain battlefield. The news had spread amongst the cultivators in the Sky Domain battlefield, shocking many living beings. An undying underworld emperor was even defeated by an outsider, and had no choice but to escape. This news was even more shocking. Undying underworld emperor was not an ordinary life form. He was born and bred in the Sky Domain battlefield. His cultivation was unquestionable. Especially undying underworld emperor's unique physique, which was even more powerful. Not many lifeforms at this level could compare with undying underworld emperor's fleshy body in the entire Sky Domain battlefield. At this moment, Gu Fei and Paragon Demon God rushed into the sky. Hong long long. A powerful energy ripple came from the front. The void was violently fluctuating, causing many pitch-black spatial cracks to form. Nonetheless, this energy could not affect Gu Fei and Paragon Demon God at all. All the energy ripples were repelled by the protective energy emitted by Gu Fei and Paragon Demon God. Sam K's cultivation seems to have recovered quite a bit. Gu Fei could not help but nod when he saw Tsing K displaying his prowess. Sam K was once an extreme Dao supremacy who had fallen from the supremacy realm. If his cultivation was fully recovered, he would be an extreme Dao supremacy. Paragon Demon God's expression turned solemn when he heard Gu Fei's words. He finally understood the background of the person whom he, undying underworld emperor, and battle ancestor had previously forced to flee. It seemed that this person was a different kind of quasi-supremacy, and was once an extreme Dao supremacy. Paragon Demon God was curious about the background of this person whom he had just acknowledged as his master. Someone who could associate with an existence like Tsang K was absolutely not someone ordinary experts could compare with. In fact, the demon divine Venerable was still a little unconvinced when he was forced to submit to Gu Fei. Gu Fei was too cunning and caught him off guard, which was why he fell into his trap. Of course, if it was a fair and square battle, it would be hard to say who would win and who would lose. The demon god also had a trump card that he had not used yet. Boom! Bang! At that moment, a series of collisions rang out in the distant sky. Two figures were moving rapidly in the void, causing pitch-black spatial holes to appear in the void. The void of the world was pierced through. Come, let's settle this in one move. Sun Ke was like a peerless golden god of war. Divine light radiated from his body, making it hard for others to look at him directly. Countless ancient divine runes appeared and interweaved within the golden light. All right, that's how it should be. The battle ancestor nodded. Then, the two silhouettes separated and stood in the air. The aura of the two powerhouses was rising rapidly, causing the entire heaven and earth to shake. At that moment, many powerful figures appeared in the distance. They were the other powerful creatures that had been startled by the battle in the Heaven region battlefield. It was impossible for a battle of this level to not alarm other living beings. At that moment, Gu Fei sensed a familiar aura again. The aura was moving rapidly towards the distance at an extremely fast speed. Swoosh! Without hesitation, Gu Fei turned around and rushed towards the direction of the aura. Seeing that Gu Fei had suddenly rushed out, the demon god was shocked. He wanted to chase after Gu Fei, but just as he moved his feet, he stopped. Gu Fei did not ask him to follow, so why should he follow him? Boom! Just as Gu Fei rushed out 1,000 miles away, an earth-shattering noise came from behind. At that moment, he was in no mood to care about other things. Gu Fei had no idea who won between Sun Ke and the battle ancestor. At that moment, the old friend already knew that someone was chasing after him. The speed of the aura became even faster. It was not inferior to Gu Fei's 8 steps extreme speed. What's going on? Gu Fei was a little surprised. With his cultivation base, how was it possible that he could not catch up with the existence in front of him? Gu Fei directly performed the Heaven Ascension secret technique. A surge of Heaven Ascension energy erupted from his body. Then, his speed increased tremendously. At this moment, Gu Fei was moving in the void, but not even his shadow could be seen. Wherever he passed, pitch-black cracks would appear in the void, causing the void to ripple. In just a few breaths' time, Gu Fei had already chased for hundreds of thousands of miles. In front of him, a blurry figure was moving rapidly. When Gu Fei saw the figure, he was extremely excited. It was the figure of a woman. Could it be her? If it was her, how did she come to the Heaven region battlefield? With the speed that Gu Fei displayed, no one was faster than him other than the extreme grade supremes. As he approached the figure in front of him, a beam of chaotic light suddenly descended from the sky and enveloped the figure in front of him. In the next moment, the figure disappeared without a trace. When the chaotic light disappeared, there was nothing in front of him. There was no one in front of him. Gu Fei was in disbelief. How is this possible? Gu Fei stopped and looked up into the sky. In the sky, there was an ancient chaotic Tao pattern that flashed and disappeared into the depths of the sky. Without hesitation, he flew up into the sky and into the depths of the sky. At that moment, something fell from the sky. It was a jade talisman. The jade talisman was surrounded by spiritual light. Gu Fei quickly grabbed the jade talisman. Beginning of chaos. There were only 4 words on the jade talisman. This puzzled Gu Fei. Beginning of chaos. What did this mean? What was the purpose of her leaving behind such a clue? That person seemed to be hiding from him due to some difficulties. Otherwise, she wouldn't be hiding from him. Could it be? Gu Fei looked up at the sky and his eyes narrowed. He recalled the existences from the primal chaos origin that appeared in the primal chaos realm. Could this be related to the primal chaos origin? The primal chaos origin was above the 3 worlds and 6 Tao paths. This was something Gu Fei couldn't imagine. Before this, he didn't even know about such a place. Gu Fei faintly felt that the great mysteries of the world from ancient times to the present could be answered in the primal chaos origin. Of course, this was only Gu Fei's guess. Senior brother. In the endless chaos void, on the peak of a huge mountain floating in the chaos, a figure sitting cross-legged on a boulder suddenly opened his eyes. Chapter 33:16. Gu Fei was displeased that his old friend was avoiding him. Of course, there must be a reason for that person to avoid him. Gu Fei recalled some of the things that happened in the past. There were definitely not many people who were still alive. The people back then had either perished or disappeared. Even with Gu Fei's ability, he was actually unable to find those old friends who had disappeared. At this moment, he actually sensed the aura of an old friend in the heavenly battlefield, which surprised and delighted him. The beginning of the chaos. It seems like I have to make a trip to the origin source ground of chaos, Gu Fei muttered to himself. However, how to get to the origin source ground of chaos was a problem, because a special teleportation formation was required to get there. He had once interacted with the living beings of the origin source ground of chaos in the Chaos Demon realm, and had even become enemies with the strong insect race in the origin source ground of chaos. The ruler of the Chaos Demon realm, to a certain extent, was the insect race. However, no one knew whether there were living beings of the origin source ground of chaos in the ancestor god realm. Gu Fei was still in the heavenly battlefield and had not truly set foot in the ancestor god realm. The path of the Stone Demon clan wasn't easy to traverse, but compared to the path of the Willow Demon clan, it was slightly easier, because the Black Demon Sea was sealed. The Black Demon Sea was in existence independent of the ancestor god realm. The living beings in it could not leave, and it was not easy for the living beings from the outside to enter. Although the heavenly battlefield was also a dangerous place, the living beings from the outside could enter, and the living beings from the inside could also leave the place. Gu Fei withdrew his gaze, turned around, and flew towards the direction of Tsung Kei and the others. Soon he returned. At this time, the entire region had changed. The ground was cracked, the void was shattered, and the entire region was destroyed by the two experts. At this time, Gu Fei could not see a single person. They left so quickly, where did they go? Gu Fei was very surprised. Not only Tsung Kei and the battle ancestor, even the demon god that he had just taken under his command was nowhere to be seen. Yes. Gu Fei suddenly sensed a powerful aura from afar. A person was stealthily approaching from afar. Humph, good timing. Gu Fei smiled. Then, his figure disappeared in the void. When he reappeared, he was above that person's head. Oh my God! Gu Fei's sudden appearance gave that person quite a fright. Fellow Taoist, you'll scare me to death, the man said with lingering fear. Then why didn't you die? Gu Fei smiled as he looked at the guy below. It was a fat young man wearing a Taoist robe. It was unknown how long this guy's Taoist robe had not been washed. It was dirty and emitted an unpleasant smell of sweat. I want to die too, but I can't. Sigh, this is so troublesome, the fat Taoist priest said. Do you want me to help you? Gu Fei said with a smile. You don't have to worry about that. The fat Taoist priest quickly shook his head. Me, Gu Fei. What about you? Gu Fei said. This fat Taoist was obviously not simple. It was a good opportunity for him to ask this guy. Pang Long, people call me the Undying Taoist. You can call me Master Long, the fat Taoist priest said. Yes, you're really fat. Gu Fei looked at this fat Taoist priest named Pang Long. This guy was fair and chubby with a big head and ears. He looked very comical. If you say I'm fat again, I'll get angry with you, Master Long said angrily. All right, I'll stop teasing you. Oh right, do you know where those guys who were fighting just now went? Gu Fei asked. You're talking about those three trash, Pang Long said in disdain. Tsung Kei and the others were the trash he was referring to. Of course, if Tsung Kei was trash, then there were plenty of trash in the 3 realms and 6 Dao. You actually said that they're trash? Gu Fei couldn't understand this guy. Could this guy be an extreme Dao sovereign? He actually dared to look down on Tsung Kei and the others. One must know that Tsung Kei and the others represented the strongest group of people in the ancestral god realm. Hee, if they're not trash, then what are they? They only know how to fight and kill. You should know that true experts don't need strength to win, Pang Long said in disdain. Looks like you're not a good bird either, Gu Fei said thoughtfully. Tisk, I'm not a bird. Naturally, I'm not a good bird, Pang Long said disapprovingly. Haha, of course you're not a bird. All right, let's talk about those 3 trash. Gu Fei said with a smile. Why are you interested in trash? Pang Long, who called himself Master Long, said impatiently. Cut the crap. Tell me what you know. Gu Fei was also getting impatient. Pang Long smiled and said, The three of them went west. That's the lair of the battle ancestor. There's great danger there. That trash, the battle ancestor, is really ruthless. Fatty Pang suddenly let out a sigh. Gu Fei finally understood. The Zhan Zhu actually wanted to draw Tseng Ke into a place of great danger and rely on the energy of the place to annihilate Sun Quebec. In this way, it would seem like the Zhan Zhu had definitely lost in the previous battle. Otherwise, the battle ancestor wouldn't have lured Tseng Ke into the ominous land. Such a method was very dishonorable. The battle ancestor wouldn't use it under normal circumstances. But it was different now. He wanted to trap the outsiders in the Heavenly Region battlefield. Once such a powerful outsider walked out of the Heavenly Region battlefield and entered the Ancestral God realm, it would have a great impact on the entire Ancestral God realm. Lead the way, Gu Fei said to Pang Long. What? Pang Long was a little unhappy when he heard this. Are you trying to trick me? Seeing Pang Long's hesitation, Gu Fei thought of something. No, how could I dare to trick you? I'll lead the way immediately. Seeing that Gu Fei was unhappy, Pang Long hurriedly soared into the sky and rushed in the direction of the battle ancestor's lair. This guy flew very fast on purpose, trying to shake off Gu Fei. However, Gu Fei followed him like a shadow. No matter how hard Pang Long tried to fly, it was all in vain. He couldn't shake off Gu Fei at all. I've been unlucky for 8 lifetimes. At this time, Pang Long was extremely depressed. He wandered around the battlefield of Tseng Ke and the battle ancestor to see if there was anything he could take advantage of. But as soon as he entered the battlefield, he was pulled by Gu Fei to do hard labor. Pang Long was originally a sly guy, but now that he met Gu Fei, he couldn't be sly anymore. He could see how strong Gu Fei was. Chapter 33:17. The lair of the Zhan ancestor was a mountain range that was shrouded in killing intent. The mountain range was actually blood-red in color. The color was gorgeous, like coral and agate. Because of the killing intent, the mountain range looked eerie and terrifying. When Fatty Pang brought Gu Fei to this place, Gu Fei could tell with a single glance that the blood-red mountain range was definitely not formed naturally. Gu Fei and Fatty Pang stood on top of a mountain peak and looked forward. In front of them were blood-red mountain peaks of varying heights. On the surface, there seemed to be nothing wrong with them. However, in the eyes of cultivators, these mountain peaks were terrifying beasts that could devour all living things. This was a killing formation. To be precise, it was an incomplete killing formation, not a complete one. Using the mountain peaks to set up a formation could change the momentum of heaven and earth, drawing the power of heaven and earth for one's own use. This was the unique characteristic of this killing formation. Therefore, even if there was no one controlling this killing formation, it would automatically gather the heaven and earth spiritual chi from all directions, forming a peerless killing intent. If this was a complete killing formation, that Zhan ancestor would definitely not dare to take half a step in here, Fatty Pang said. He was observing the momentum of heaven and earth. This ability could only be mastered by those with a high level of formation cultivation. With this ability, Fatty Pang could tell with one glance that the killing formation in front of him was incredible. The killing intent soared into the sky and was incomparably terrifying. He couldn't help but admire the Zhan ancestor for daring to cultivate in such a place. In his opinion, this was simply making things difficult for him. If he was not careful and triggered this killing formation, even the Zhan ancestor would be instantly killed. Humph, I didn't expect you to be able to see so many things. Could it be that you're a formation grandmaster? Gu Fei glanced at Fatty Pang and said. He couldn't see through this guy. With his cultivation, there were very few existences in this world that he couldn't see through. Fatty Pang was not simple. He must have a secret treasure or a forbidden weapon on him. Otherwise, Gu Fei wouldn't have been unable to see through this fatty's cultivation. Ha ha, you flatter me, Fatty Pang said with a proud smile. Then you must know how to enter this killing formation. Please lead the way. Gu Fei looked at Fatty Pang and said with a smile. What? Fatty Pang was shocked when he heard that. His hands trembled and the two black and white beads he was playing with almost fell from his hands. Aren't you a formation master? Can't you even do this? Gu Fei looked at Fatty Pang in disbelief. It's not impossible, but it's very dangerous inside. At this time, Fatty Pang was in a difficult position. He had just proudly proclaimed that he was an array formation grandmaster. He did not want to become a coward in the next moment. Rumble. Just as Fatty Pang was hesitating, a muffled thunder-like sound suddenly rang out from the blood-red mountain ridge in front of them. Immediately afterwards, a powerful destructive force rippled out from the blood-red mountain ridge. It's really inside. In that instant, Gu Fei sensed Sankei's aura and the demon divine Venerable's aura. However, he did not sense the battle ancestor's aura. What's going on? Sure enough, they fell into a trap. They are really stupid. Fatty Pang said arrogantly, as if he was the smartest person in the world. Looking at Fatty Pang's smug expression, Gu Fei shook his head. Why? Are you looking down on me? Fatty Pang was immediately unhappy when he saw Gu Fei shaking his head. I can't stand being looked down on the most. If you want to go in, then follow me. Fatty Pang seemed to be really angered by Gu Fei. He strode down the mountain and directly walked towards the blood-red mountain ridge in front of him. Seeing that, Gu Fei was secretly amused and quickly followed. This Fatty Pang was very easy to trick. Ordinary provocation could make Fatty Pang fly into a rage. Was this guy really that easy to trick? Gu Fei did not know, but he was not afraid of Fatty Pang. Fatty Pang would not play any new tricks in front of him. Soon, Gu Fei and the others arrived in front of the blood-red mountain ridge. When he came closer, the murderous aura from the blood-red mountain ridge made his heart palpitate. Fatty Pang was indeed worthy of being a formation grandmaster. He only looked for a while and he found the entrance to the killing array, which made Gu Fei admire him a little. However, this guy was still hesitant. He stood in front of the life gate, thinking about something. Gu Fei did not disturb Fatty Pang. One should know that this kind of extreme formation was the most powerful formation in the world. Even if it was an incomplete formation, it was not to be underestimated. This Fatty Pang was the second formation grandmaster that Gu Fei had seen. The first formation grandmaster that Gu Fei met was naturally He Tian. Although He Tian was a bastard, his attainments in formation were something that even Gu Fei admired. Just as Gu Fei was thinking about He Tian, in the depths of the land of ascension of immortals on the ancestral star, various strange phenomena appeared. The land of ascension of immortals seemed to be emerging. The strange phenomena in the land of ascension of immortals attracted the attention of countless experts on the ancestral star. The Ji clan had sent many experts to the land of ascension of immortals, but these experts died mysteriously one after another. No one knew who killed them. Many people guessed that this was an ominous sign in the land of ascension of immortals because the experts of the Ji clan had died in the ruins of the land of ascension of immortals. Moreover, the experts of the Ji clan had died very strangely. Their physical bodies were not injured at all, but their divine souls were missing. The death of the experts of the Ji clan had enraged the Ji clan master. The Ji clan then sent even more powerful experts to the land of ascension of immortals to investigate the cause of the incident. However, the Ji clan could not find anything. The Ji clan was the most powerful force in the ancestral star. If even the Ji clan could not find anything, it was even more impossible for the other forces to find anything. At this time, the situation in the ancestral star was very delicate. A storm was brewing. Of course, Gu Fei did not know about these things. At this time, Sankei, who was trapped in the killing formation, broke the formation. His powerful divine path energy erupted and shook the entire formation. However, this was a remnant of an extreme killing formation. Sankei was no longer the extreme supreme being he was in the past. It was impossible for him to break this remnant formation. The blood-colored mountains were trembling, and blood-colored runes constantly emerged from them. Then, they intertwined to form mysterious and unfathomable diagrams. Angry roars came from the killing formation. Sun Ke and the demon god were in big trouble. "Can you do it or not?" Gu Fei was getting impatient. "Don't rush me." Fatty Pang was sweating profusely. He did not go in because he suspected that the killing formation was of a very high level. It would not be easy to find the life gate. This was the reason why Fatty Pang did not dare to enter the killing formation. The killing formation was full of danger. One careless mistake and he would lose his life there. Sun Ke and the demon god, who were trapped in the killing formation, tried to break the formation. However, even if they could use their extreme power, the result would be the same. All right. Just as Gu Fei was panicking, Fatty Pang finally deduced a safe passage. Then, Fatty Pang walked unhurriedly into the Scarlet Mountain ridge in front of him and entered the extreme Dao remnant formation. Gu Fei did not dare to delay and quickly followed. After entering the killing formation, Gu Fei was shocked to find that the murderous aura in the formation was much thinner than outside the formation. This was something he did not expect. Fatty Pang walked and stopped from time to time. After an hour, he had only advanced a few hundred feet. At this speed, it would be impossible to reach the place where Sun Ke and the demon god were trapped without half a day's time. Rumble! The entire mountain suddenly shook. The blood-colored mountains were emitting a demonic blood-colored light. The power of the extreme killing formation was gathering, trying to destroy Sun Ke and the demon god. "I told you it's a trap, but you didn't believe me. Great, now you're trapped here waiting for death." The demon god's divine thoughts came from the depths of the killing formation. He was very unhappy. He should not have been trapped here, but he did not listen to the demon god's words. Hence, Gu Fei and the demon god fell into the trap. Humph! Sun Ke snorted coldly but did not say anything. He knew that Gu Fei would definitely come to save him. Sure enough, Gu Fei had arrived. However, this forbidden land was a killing formation. Even Gu Fei did not dare to recklessly barge into this place. So troublesome. Gu Fei sighed. With a flip of his right hand, an ancient cauldron the size of a fist immediately appeared in his hand, and he held it in his hand. A supreme Dao tool! The moment Fatty Pang saw the ancient cauldron in Gu Fei's hand, he was immediately captivated by it. He found it hard to believe that Gu Fei actually possessed an extreme Dao artifact. Fatty Pang's eyes could not move away from the ancient cauldron in Gu Fei's hand. "I didn't expect you to be so knowledgeable to recognize the mountain and river cauldron," Gu Fei said unhurriedly and expressionlessly. Mountain and river cauldron." Fatty Pang's voice trembled. Obviously, he knew about the existence of the mountain and river cauldron. However, it seemed impossible as this was the heavenly domain battlefield in the ancestral god realm. This made Gu Fei even more curious about Fatty Pang's identity. Who was this guy? He was a formation grandmaster, and could recognize the mountain and river cauldron. "You don't need to take the risk to enter this killing formation with this thing. This cauldron can break the formation," Fatty Pang said. Rumble! The entire mountain range shook even more violently. Endless murderous intent surged outside the formation. "Ha ha!" At this moment, a loud laugh suddenly came from outside the formation. At the same time, a figure appeared in the sky outside the formation. Chapter 33:18. The Scarlet Blood Mountain Range was an ominous place in the heavenly battlefield. The entire mountain range was a super killing array, and it was an incomplete one. It was not a complete killing array. At this time, the mountain range that had been silent for countless years rushed out with a monstrous blood-red light. Endless evil chi spread in all directions. Rumble! The Scarlet Mountain Range was shaking, and countless scarlet blood Dao patterns emerged on the blood-red mountain peaks in the mountain range, intertwining into array diagrams. What happened? All the creatures near the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range were inexplicably shocked. The mighty destructive aura from the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range terrified all the creatures. Could it be that the battle ancestor has cultivated a supreme divine ability that can shock the world and make ghosts and gods weep? Someone made such a guess. Although the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range was an ominous place, it was also the lair of the Black Demon Battle Ancestor. The Black Demon Battle Ancestor cultivated in seclusion there. The Black Demon Battle Ancestor was a terrifying and powerful existence in the heavenly battlefield. He lived by fighting and once challenged the experts in the heavenly battlefield. Not many people in the entire Sky Region battlefield could compare to him in terms of battle experience. The fluctuation that erupted from the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range was too powerful. It spread out, and all the creatures within a radius of hundreds of thousands of miles could feel it. The entire area near the mountain range darkened. Above the sky, there was a huge dark vortex. The vortex seemed to be swallowing the entire sky, making people's hearts palpitate. Soon, powerful figures appeared near the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range, and some experts watched from afar. At this time, Gu Fei and Fatty Pang were unlucky. The Black Demon Battle Ancestor was very cruel and merciless. He actually wanted to catch them all in one fell swoop. Good heavens! Gu Fei held the mountain river cauldron in his hand and looked up at the figure sitting cross-legged in the void above the sky. His pupils involuntarily shrank. Oh no, we're going to be in big trouble. Fatty Pang's expression changed drastically. He never thought that the Black Demon Battle Ancestor could actually control this broken array. How was this possible? It was a broken array left from ancient times. Although it was a broken array, it was an extremely incomplete array. What are you afraid of? Gu Fei said disapprovingly. He retracted his gaze from the Black Demon Patriarch in the sky and looked around. He saw that the scenery around him had changed. The path of life has become a dead end. What should I do? What should I do? Fatty Pang panicked. Beads of sweat the size of soybeans kept appearing on his forehead. He kept wiping the sweat off his forehead with his sleeves as he continued to deduce. It's too fast. The changes are too fast. What should I do? I can't divine it. Fatty Pang exclaimed. The speed of his deductions was far slower than the speed of the array's changes. In other words, he could not deduce the path of survival of this array at all. What should we do? What should we do? Gu Fei smiled. You can still smile at a time like this. Fatty Pang was about to go crazy. He didn't want to die here, but he knew that the opponent's attack would come soon. Sure enough, what one feared would come true. 4 blood-colored mountains appeared around Gu Fei and Fatty Pang, and then came crashing towards them. Rumble. The Scarlet Blood Mountains were moving, and the entire mountain range was shaking. A terrifying destructive force erupted from the 4 mountains, sealing Gu Fei and Fatty Pang in the middle. The 4 Scarlet Blood Mountains collided with each other. Boom! With a loud bang, the 4 mountains collided with each other, and an unimaginable destructive force erupted. The 4 Scarlet Blood Mountains collapsed in an instant, and blood-colored dust immediately enveloped the area. Gu Fei and Fatty Pang, who were in the middle of the 4 blood-colored mountains, were naturally the first to bear the brunt. The Black Demon Patriarch, who was sitting cross-legged in the sky above the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range, smiled. All the fishes had fallen into the net. The life and death of these guys were now in his hands. At this time, in another place in the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range, the Demon God and San Ke were also in great danger. They were besieged by the Scarlet Mountains, and it was not an easy task to rush out. The Demon God used a sledgehammer to block the destructive power that was coming towards them. However, the Demon God hammer hovering above their heads was constantly vibrating. Tiny cracks had appeared on its surface, as though it could shatter at any time. Quickly think of a way, I can't hold on for long. The Demon God shouted at Sang Quebec. He fully activated the power of the Demon God hammer, and ancient and mysterious Tao patterns emerged and intertwined on the Demon God hammer. The Scarlet Blood Formation's power was not something the Demon God could contend with. Once the Scarlet Blood Formation's true power erupted, the Demon God would die. At this time, San Ke could no longer sit still because he no longer had a supreme Tao weapon. If he did, The killing formation would not be able to do anything to them. Roar! Sun Ke roared furiously, and a surge of extreme Tao-level energy exploded from his body. Golden Bell Protection. Sun Ke unleashed this technique right away. Boundless power of the divine Tao surged forth, and a gigantic golden bell appeared in the void, enveloping them within. At the next moment, the demon god breathed a sigh of relief. The killing formation's power from all directions was blocked by the golden bell evolved by Tsen Quebec. Humph, it's just a last-ditch struggle. High in the sky, the black demon war ancestor looked down and said indifferently. At this time, in the Scarlet Mountain Range, where Gu Fei and Fatty Pang were, dust billowed, and two figures directly walked out of the blood-colored dust. The person in front was holding an ancient cauldron in his hand, and a gentle wave of power spread from the ancient cauldron in his hand. No matter how powerful the power was, it was blocked by the wave of power that spread from the ancient cauldron in the person's hand. What? High in the sky, the black demon war ancestor was taken aback when he saw the scene below. His eyes fell on the ancient cauldron in Gu Fei's hand. Buzz. There was a deafening sound in the void, and in the next moment, ripples visible to the naked eye spread in all directions with Gu Fei in the middle. A wave of power rushed out from the ancient cauldron in Gu Fei's hand and instantly rose into the sky, directly piercing the black demon war ancestor in the sky. Swoosh. An almost invisible divine light flashed in the void, and the black demon war ancestor in the sky was directly pierced through, leaving a bloody hole. What? When Fatty Pang, who was standing next to Gu Fei, saw this scene, his eyeballs almost fell out. The mountain and river cauldron really lived up to its reputation. It actually injured the black demon war ancestor in an instant. The black demon war ancestor roared and directly fell from the sky. Boom! A blood-colored mountain was directly smashed into pieces. In the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range, rocks flew into the sky, and dust filled the sky. Let's go and take a look. Gu Fei held the mountain and river cauldron in his hand and walked directly to the place where the black demon war ancestor fell. Fatty Pang was already stunned. He hurriedly followed. The chaotic primordial force that radiated from the ancient cauldron in Gu Fei's hand enveloped Gu Fei and Fatty Pang. No matter how powerful and vast the blood chi outside was, it was unable to harm them at all. Roar! Before Gu Fei and Fatty Pang arrived at the place where the black demon war ancestor had fallen, they heard a furious roar in front of them. A figure instantly arrived before them, and a black sword directly stabbed towards the center of his eyebrows. Ding! With a soft sound, the tip of the black sword pierced through the void, directly stabbing the center of Gu Fei's eyebrows. However, to the black demon war ancestor's shock, his sword actually failed to pierce through. How is this possible? The black fiend war ancestor was so surprised that he couldn't help laughing. Piss off! Gu Fei roared angrily. With a jolt of his body, an extremely powerful chaotic force immediately erupted from his body. The black demon war ancestor only felt an irresistible force pass through the black sword in his hand, and he immediately took a few steps back involuntarily. The power of the blood demon formation was naturally weakened. Hence, Sun Ke and the demon god were able to escape. When they saw that Gu Fei was confronting the black demon battle ancestor, they did not step forward. Instead, they retreated to the side. Outsider! You are very confident. The black demon battle ancestor continued to devour the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range. He saw that Gu Fei did not make a move to stop him. He could not help but feel a little uneasy. Deal with you. It's just child's play. Gu Fei looked at the black demon battle ancestor opposite him. He said with a disdainful smile. How dare you look down on me? Take this. The black demon battle ancestor roared. He directly made a move. Endless chi and blood were surging. It turned into 9 blood-colored dragons and pounced at Gu Fei. There seemed to be a series of deafening dragon roars in the void. The energy fluctuations that erupted from the 9 blood dragons were extremely tyrannical. The power of the 9 dragons pouncing. It was terrifying to the extreme. The void around Gu Fei immediately collapsed. Then I'll play with you, Gu Fei said, and his body shook. 9 streams of chaotic energy immediately rushed out of his body. They also turned into 9 tyrannical chaotic dragon shadows. Then they collided with the blood-colored dragons that pounced. Chapter 33:20. The origin of the Black Demon Battle Ancestor was amazing. He could actually control the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range. One must know that the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range was an extremely terrifying place. The experts in the heavenly battlefield originally thought that the Black Demon Battle Ancestor wanted to borrow the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range to cultivate, but who knew that the Black Demon Battle Ancestor could actually control the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range? It seems that I've underestimated that guy, the monster god, who was watching the battle in the distance, said. The Black Demon Battle Ancestor had actually attracted the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range to strengthen himself. This was simply equivalent to the arrival of an extreme-grade Supreme Master. However, Gu Fei was not someone to be trifled with. This guy could attract the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range to strengthen himself, and he could also mobilize the power of the mountain and river cauldron for his own use. At this time, the 2 great experts attacked with all their might. The 9 blood dragons collided with the 9 chaos dragons. It was an extremely shocking scene. The entire sky above the Scarlet Blood Mountain Range was filled with dragon shadows, as if 18 real ancestral dragons had appeared between heaven and earth. Each dragon shadow exuded a strong wave of power. The 18 dragons entangled in the void, constantly colliding and fighting fiercely. Very soon, the 9 blood-red dragons were defeated and suppressed by the 9 chaos dragons that Gu Fei had conjured. In the end, all of them dispersed in the void. Just as the 9 blood-colored dragons were scattered by the chaos dragons, blood-colored mountain ridges suddenly soared into the sky and knocked the 9 chaos dragons away. The 9 chaos dragons were directly knocked into the sky by the blood-colored mountain ridge, and then exploded. The powerful destructive force swept down, and the void was constantly annihilated. It was a terrifying scene of destruction, and all creatures who saw this scene were shocked to the extreme. However, the blood-colored mountains emitted a monstrous blood-colored light, and they actually blocked the destructive power that was descending. Go to hell! The Black Demon Battle Ancestor's voice came from the blood-colored mountain ridge, and then the blood-colored mountain ridge directly pressed down on Gu Fei below. Rumble! The entire sky seemed to explode as the power of the extreme grade erupted. This made Gu Fei feel a lot of pressure, and he had to take it seriously. At this time, Fatty Pang had long been stunned by the scene in front of him. His legs had gone soft, and he couldn't escape even if he wanted to. However, Gu Fei was unafraid. He raised his head and looked at the blood-colored mountain range that was descending from the sky. A cold smile suddenly appeared on his face. Then, he extended his right hand, and the fist-sized ancient cauldron in his hand immediately flew up and charged towards the blood-colored mountain range that was descending from the sky. The small ancient cauldron was so small that it could be ignored compared to the blood-colored mountain ridge in the sky. The blood-colored mountain ridge was not a real mountain ridge, but a means of attack that the Black Demon Battle Ancestor had evolved. It was the power of the Scarlet Mountain Range. This kind of extreme grade level power was enough to kill all existences below the extreme grade supremacy level. Even Song Ke, who was once a supremacy, was no match for it. Haha, are you crazy? You want to compete with my killer move by throwing a broken cauldron? The Black Demon Battle Ancestor couldn't help laughing when he saw Gu Fei throw the inconspicuous ancient cauldron in his hand. It was no wonder that the Black Demon Battle Ancestor laughed at Gu Fei, because the ancient cauldron was so inconspicuous and unadorned that even the Black Demon Battle Ancestor didn't know that it was the power of this ancient cauldron that had seriously injured him. Laugh all you want, you're going to cry later. Fatty Pang couldn't help but laugh at the Black Demon Battle Ancestor when he saw this scene. At the same time, the fist-sized ancient cauldron that flew out from Gu Fei's hand instantly collided with the blood-colored mountain ridge that was descending. The next moment, the mountain ridge actually stopped. It was blocked by the small ancient cauldron, and it could no longer be obliterated. What? The black demon battle ancestor was dumbfounded. He never thought that a small ancient cauldron could actually block his move. This was the power of the extreme grade level. The next moment, something that shocked the black demon battle ancestor even more happened. Rumble! The sound of wind and thunder came from the small cauldron, and then, a heaven-devouring power surged out from the mouth of the small cauldron. It was actually devouring the power of the evil blood chi. The black demon battle ancestor was shocked. This inconspicuous small cauldron was actually devouring the evil blood chi that he had attracted. This small cauldron could actually compete with the power condensed by the Scarlet Blood Mountain range. Ha ha! At this time, Fatty Pang laughed loudly, as if he was gloating. But at this time, the black demon battle ancestor had no time to pay attention to this annoying guy. He fully mobilized the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountain range, and wanted to send the small cauldron flying. However, the small cauldron had frozen the void of this part of the world, continuously devouring the evil blood chi into the cauldron. The ancient cauldron was like a bottomless pit. What kind of Dao artifact is this? Is it a legendary forbidden Dao artifact? The black demon battle ancestor couldn't calm down at this time, and he exclaimed. In the ancestral god realm, the legendary forbidden Dao artifact referred to the extreme Dao artifact. In the ancestral god realm, such Dao artifacts were extremely rare and had become legends. Gu Fei didn't say anything. He operated the mountain and river cauldron with all his strength, and the primordial chaos power surged out from the cauldron. The evil blood chi that was devoured by the cauldron was directly refined by the primordial chaos power in the mountain and river cauldron. It's too late for you to know now. Old man, you deserve to be unlucky today, Fatty Pang said loudly. At this time, the power of the mountain and river cauldron erupted. The mountain and river cauldron not only froze the void of this part of the world, but also the evil blood chi of the extreme Dao level. Buzz! The mountain and river cauldron was vibrating. This extreme Dao artifact actually showed signs of awakening. The sleeping god in the cauldron seemed to be awakening, which made Gu Fei a little nervous. Once the god in the mountain and river cauldron woke up from its slumber, it would be equivalent to a different kind of extreme Dao Supreme appearing in this world. If the god in the mountain and river cauldron was really going to wake up, it would definitely be a great thing for Gu Fei. However, what Gu Fei expected did not happen. The god in the mountain and river cauldron did not wake up from its slumber, but even so, it was enough to deal with the black demon battle ancestor. Swish! Gu Fei didn't hesitate. He directly rushed into the sky and rushed into the blood-colored mountain range. Soon, the blood-colored mountain range in the sky dissipated. Two figures rushed out of the endless blood chi and moved directly in the void, constantly clashing, and the tyrannical impact directly shook the world. Chapter 33:21. Gu Fei used the cauldron of mountains and rivers. A powerful force that could suppress the heavens froze the entire space. Of course, it also froze the entire Scarlet Blood Mountains. How is this possible? The Black Fiend battle ancestor was inexplicably shocked. The power that erupted from his opponent's ancient cauldron had actually suppressed the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountains. This was definitely not a good thing for him. Having lost the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountains, the Black Fiend battle ancestor had to completely rely on his own strength to fight against Gu Fei. As a result, he was not Gu Fei's opponent at all. Boom! Bam! Two figures moved quickly in the space, and extremely powerful energy rippled out. The entire space was directly shattered. This was the power that could destroy the world. Gu Fei and the Black Fiend battle ancestor were both fighting with their own strength. The power of the cauldron of mountains and rivers suppressed the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountains. Clang! Two extremely sharp rays of light collided, creating countless sparks. An incomparably powerful pulse of power emerged from Gu Fei's ninth heavenly star sword. On the pitch-black sword, specks of starlight flickered. The chaotic force that had been poured into the 9th heavenly star sword from Gu Fei's hand turned into terrifying rays of chaotic light after being enhanced by the 9th heavenly star sword. Take my 9 heaven punishing swords! Gu Fei directly used the 9 heaven punishing swords. This was a sovereign level killing technique of the sword. 9 rays of chaotic light rushed out from the 9th heavenly star sword in his hand, and each ray of light erupted with shocking killing power. This was the power of heaven punishing. It could even destroy the world with a single strike. It was terrifying to the extreme. This is... Before the Black Fiend Battle Ancestor could react, the 9 sky punishing sword lights instantly penetrated his body and dissipated in the void. How is this possible? The Black Fiend Battle Ancestor stared at Gu Fei in disbelief. In the next moment, he turned into ashes and dissipated in the space. A battle ancestor had actually been slain by Gu Fei just like that. His body and soul had been destroyed, and he could not even be a ghost anymore. This, Fatty Pang, the demon god, and Sun Ke couldn't believe what they saw. The power of Gu Fei's sword made their hearts palpitate. Especially demon god Venerable, because no one knew the black demon battle ancestor better than him. They were neighbors. Swoosh! Gu Fei quickly moved through the void and quickly rushed out of the Scarlet Blood Mountain Ridge. Demon Divine Master, Sun Ke, and the others hurriedly rushed to where Gu Fei was. Fatty Pang even pounced on Gu Fei, afraid that Gu Fei would leave just like that. Gu Fei put away the 9 heaven stars sword and stretched out his right hand. The mountain and river cauldron that had sealed the world flew back to him and fell into his hand. Rumble! The entire space trembled as a pitch-black spatial crack appeared. The entire blood-red mountain range was shaking. Although the power of the Scarlet Blood Mountain range had been restrained, the remaining power was still extremely terrifying. Gu Fei's heart palpitated when he saw that scene. Seeing that Gu Fei had beheaded the Black Demon Battle Ancestor, the experts who were watching the battle around were very wary of Gu Fei and did not dare to attack Gu Fei easily. Some experts even turned around and left directly, not daring to have any contact with Gu Fei, lest they provoke unimaginable enemies for themselves. Gu Fei was sure that he definitely had a lot of enemies. Boss, your little brother's admiration for you is like the water of the Milky Way, it never stops. Fatty Pang said to Gu Fei with great respect. I say, apart from this sentence, don't you know how to say anything else? Gu Fei said impatiently. At this time, they were in a cave, which was found by Sun Ke and was very well hidden. In the cave, in addition to Gu Fei, Fatty Pang, and Sun Ke, there was also Demon God Venerable. The heavenly battlefield was very big, and it was definitely not easy for them to find a way out of this battlefield. Moreover, this battlefield was not a good place to be. Before finding this cave, Gu Fei and the others had encountered danger more than once. They had seen those terrifying remnant souls wandering in this battlefield. Those were things formed by immortal remnant thoughts. They had no consciousness of their own and only knew how to obliterate everything that came close to them. This kind of existence could be said to be ominous, but this kind of ominous thing could kill people. Even if Gu Fei and the others encountered this kind of existence, they would take a detour from a distance, not daring to approach it. In addition to those remnant souls wandering in the heavenly battlefield, Gu Fei and the others also encountered a pack of wolves. Yes, it was a pack of wolves, a pack of death wolves that was so powerful that even Gu Fei's heart palpitated. Each death wolf was extremely powerful and was simply the perfect killing tool. Fatty Pang was almost bitten in the buttocks by a death wolf. Encountering a pack of death wolves, they could only retreat. Thus, they were fortunate enough to find their current hiding place. It was a well-hidden and spacious cave that could hide tens of thousands of people. But now, there was only Gu Fei and the others in such a huge cave. The entrance to the cave was blocked by a boulder the size of a mountain that Gu Fei had moved over. After nightfall, the heavenly region battlefield became even more dangerous. Gu Fei sat cross-legged on a boulder. Boss, I can't think of a second sentence to praise you other than this. Fatty Pang scratched his head in embarrassment. Fatty, who are you? At this time, Demon God suddenly stared at Fatty Pang and said, it was his first time seeing Fatty Pang, so he was very vigilant and did not dare to let his guard down. He had been paying attention to Fatty Pang for a long time, but he could not find anything wrong with him. However, for Demon God, not finding anything was the most suspicious part. If Fatty Pang was an enemy, it would be very terrifying. Of course, Fatty Pang might not be hostile, and he might not be their enemy. Who am I? Didn't I say it already? Do I have to say it again? Fatty Pang looked at Demon God unhappily and said, he only had eyes for Gu Fei who killed the Black Demon Battle Ancestor. He did not take Demon God seriously at all. Fatty Pang Long was an expert of the Pang clan in the ancestral god realm. The Pang clan was a giant existence in the cultivation world of the ancestral god realm. The Pang clan had almost unified the entire ancestral god realm. However, there were still other extremely powerful cultivation forces in the ancestral god realm. The current ancestral god realm was dominated by 3 forces, and the Pang clan was one of them. You said you are from the Pang clan? What evidence do you have? Demon God said. In the ancestral god realm, the Demon God clan was a very special clan. There were very few clansmen in this clan, but every clansman was powerful enough to change the world. What? I still need evidence? Believe it or not. Fatty Pang said in a very unhappy tone. Every clansman of the Pang clan in the ancestral god realm has a special mark on the back of their neck. Sam K, who had been silent all this while, suddenly said, what? Fatty Pang could not help but be taken aback and looked at Sam K in disbelief. That was a big secret of the Pang clan. No outsider knew about it. How did this guy know? Fatty Pang did not know that in the distant past, the mark on the back of the Pang clan's clansmen was not a secret. It was related to the bloodline of the Pang clan. Therefore, as long as they had the bloodline of the Pang clan, they would have a mark on the back of their neck. The mark would never disappear. Even if they died, it would not disappear. There's a mark on the back of his neck? Gu Fei looked at Fatty Pang curiously. At this moment, Fatty Pang's expression became gloomy and uncertain. Let us see the mark on the back of your neck. Demon God stared at Fatty Pang and said expressionlessly, Humph. Do I have to show you just because you told me to? Fatty Pang said impatiently. It seems that you're not from the Pang clan. If that's the case, then die. Demon God stared at Fatty Pang and said coldly, why are you always picking on me? Do you think I'm a pushover? Fatty Pang stared at Demon God and said angrily, Humph, I'm bullying you. So what? Demon God said coldly. His eyes narrowed as he looked at Fatty Pang. Light flickered in his eyes as a powerful aura spread from his body. At that moment, Gu Fei did not speak. Chapter 33:22. The Pang clan in the ancestral god realm was one of the strongest clans in the ancestral god realm. The clan's ancestor was said to be a ultimate god. The Pang clan's bloodline mark was on the back of the clan members' necks. When Gu Fei and the others saw the bloodline mark on Fatty Pang's neck, they were surprised. It was actually a human figure, faintly discernible, smaller than an adult's finger. This tiny human figure was the bloodline mark of the Pang clan. Of course, not everyone had the bloodline mark. The Pang clan's bloodline mark would only appear after the bloodline power was awakened. Alright, let's think about how to get out of this damn place. Gu Fei glanced at the Demon God and Fatty Pang. He did not want to see internal strife. It would not be a good thing for Gu Fei if the Demon God and Fatty Pang were to fight. Boss, you have to leave this place. Fatty Pang hurriedly replied. If I don't leave this place, do I have to stay here forever? Gu Fei said angrily. Rumble. At that moment, a dull thunderous sound suddenly came from outside the valley, which surprised Gu Fei and the others. What was going on outside? The ground was shaking, and gravel kept rolling down from the cliffs around the valley. Swoosh! Gu Fei directly soared into the sky from the valley and looked toward the direction where the sound came from. He saw a battle breaking out on a mountain ridge thousands of miles away. The sky and ground were densely packed with people. Two different factions were fighting with their lives on the line, each wanting to destroy the other. At that moment, Ying Tong, Sun Ke, and the others had arrived behind Gu Fei. They were all very surprised. It was dusk, and the two forces were fighting desperately under the setting sun. Moreover, there were many of them. Fighting for the spiritual treasure, the Sky Piercer suddenly said. At that moment, he had already put away his halberd. Very likely. Gu Fei nodded and said, "Let's go and have a look." After saying that, Gu Fei flew up into the sky and charged towards the great battle ahead. He was very curious as to what exactly these two powerful clans were after. Soon, Gu Fei arrived at a mountain peak not far from the battlefield. He directly descended from the sky and landed on the mountain peak. Moments later, Sun Ke, Jiang Yuan, Ying Tong, and the rest also arrived behind Gu Fei. Rumble! The battle cries in front of them shook the heavens. Deafening sounds rang out as people continuously fell from the sky. Those were the corpses of those who had been killed. "Who are these people?" Gu Fei asked the demon god. "If my guess is correct, this is a fight between the Shao family and the Yuan family," Demon Divine Venerable said. It could be seen that the Shao family and Yuan family possessed incomparably powerful forces in the ancestral god realm. Otherwise, it would be impossible for people from these two families to appear in the Sky region battlefield. Demon Divine Venerable was a different kind of existence in the ancestral god realm. He had a great reputation in the ancestral god realm. He had once challenged the strongest person in the ancestral god realm, but survived. Although he had not been in the ancestral god realm for almost 1,000 years, he was still very clear about the powerful forces in the ancestral god realm. "Those are the people from the Shao family, and those are the people from the Yuan family?" Gu Fei asked. In fact, among them, only Gu Fei did not know about the Shao family and the Yuan family. However, it was too late to explain in detail. "Boss, the soldiers of the Shao family are wearing purple-green armors, while the soldiers of the Yuan family are wearing light golden armors. This is easy to recognize," Fatty Pang quickly said. Gu Fei nodded, but did not say anything. With his cultivation base, he could tell that the Yuan family was in trouble. Judging from the current situation, the Shao family obviously had the upper hand. He quickly understood why the Shao family and the Yuan family were fighting. It turned out that there was a spiritual spring at the peak of a nearby mountain. In the middle of the spiritual spring, there was a stalk of spiritual medicine. It was not an ordinary spiritual medicine. It was a spiritual medicine that looked like a phoenix spreading its wings. This spiritual medicine was called the divine phoenix spreading its wings. Legend had it that the blood essence of a phoenix dripped on the ground and nurtured it. This kind of spiritual medicine was extremely rare even in the entire cultivation world. In the past few decades, the divine phoenix spreading its wings had become priceless in the cultivation world. In the sky above the spiritual spring at the peak of the mountain, two experts were moving quickly, fighting with all their might. They both wanted to obtain the divine phoenix spreading its wings in the spiritual spring. Two generals were fighting fiercely. One was a middle-aged man wearing purple-green armor and holding a bronze spear. He was an elder of the Shao family. As for the other general, he was also a middle-aged man. This middle-aged man wore light golden battle armor, and the weapon he held in his hand was a large iron sword with a very wide blade. Clang! The Shao family general's spear clashed continuously with his opponent's sword, causing sparks to fly. The two generals flew backwards at the same time, then collided with each other in an instant. A great battle ensued. The two experts were evenly matched, and they both held powerful spiritual weapons in their hands. It was definitely not an easy task to determine a victor between these two great generals. At this moment, Gu Fei and the others brought out a bench and sat down, watching the battle before them. Chapter 33-23. In a mountain within the heavenly region battlefield, the Shao clan and the Yuan clan were fighting over a divine phoenix spreading wings. That was a quasi-undying divine herb that even a quasi-supremacy would be envious of. In the end, the Shao clan won the battle and defeated the Yuan clan's cultivators, forcing them to flee for their lives. However, just when the Shao clan thought that the divine phoenix spreading wings was about to fall into their hands, that quasi-undying divine herb was stolen by Fatty Pang. How dare he steal something he wanted right in front of him? This made the Shao clan's general so angry that he almost vomited blood. Hand over the divine phoenix spreading wings, and I can leave your corpses intact. A cold voice came down from the sky. The Shao clan's general was looking down at the few people on the mountain. When he saw Fatty Pang, his eyes instantly lit up. Rumble! A huge hand descended from the sky, grabbing at Gu Fei, who was on top of the mountain with a terrifying destructive force. Humph! You're courting death! Gu Fei sneered. With a stomp of his feet, he immediately charged towards the large hand that was grabbing at him. Like a hot knife through butter, he instantly pierced through the large hand. What? The Shao clan's general was indescribably shocked when he saw this scene. He never expected this black-robed youth to be able to break through his divine ability so easily. The huge hand that was pierced by Gu Fei gradually dissipated into the void. Eat my fist too! Gu Fei didn't hesitate, and immediately struck out with the primal chaos fist that he created. Violent energy instantly burst out from his fist. Bang! Without any suspense, following a muffled sound, the Shao clan's general was immediately sent flying by Gu Fei. Seeing this scene, the other cultivators of the Shao clan were immediately dumbfounded. This fellow was actually so powerful that he could send a divine general flying with a single fist. Divine generals were extremely powerful, especially the Shao clan's divine general. However, such a powerful existence was not much stronger than an ant in front of Gu Fei. Just when that divine general was sent flying, Gu Fei extended his hand and grabbed another divine general in front of him. What? The divine general was shocked. He did not expect his opponent to be so powerful. Even though he was an ultimate god, he did not have the ability to resist at all. The demon divine master couldn't help but be moved when he saw this scene. The master he had just acknowledged seemed to be a little strong and powerful at the same time. Boss is mighty! Fatty Pang immediately shouted. Those ultimate gods who were usually high and mighty were nothing in front of their boss. Gu Fei did not say a word as he activated the divine snatching secret technique to read the ultimate god's soul memory. Soon, he knew everything about the Shao clan. The entire ancestral god realm was divided into 5 great continents. The Shao family resided in the southern continent, while the Yuan family resided in the eastern continent. Although these 2 great powers resided in different continents, they were mortal enemies. This time, the Yuan family had wanted to snatch away one of the Shao family's quasi-immortal spiritual herbs. Thus, they started this war. In the end, however, the Yuan family suffered a crushing defeat, sacrificing so many cultivators for nothing. And Gu Fei and the others just happened to be there. After Gu Fei found out what he wanted to know, he immediately threw the divine general aside. He did not care about the divine general at all. The feeling of being ignored made the divine general extremely ashamed and angry. He was a high and mighty ultimate god and was already considered a powerful expert in the ancestral god realm. Who were these people to be so powerful? That person is... At that moment, the ultimate god who was thrown aside by Gu Fei suddenly stared at the demon divine master with a shocked expression. Form the demons slaying killing formation and kill all these demons. I want their bodies and souls destroyed. At that moment, the ultimate god who was sent flying by Gu Fei's punch rushed back from afar. Before he arrived, he was already shouting at the Shao clan's cultivators. Hearing his senior brothers shout, the ultimate god who was thrown aside by Gu Fei immediately broke out in cold sweat. He hurriedly rushed over and stopped the ultimate god who was rushing over. Junior brother, you! The ultimate god was very puzzled and shocked as to why his junior brother stopped him. However, he soon stopped shouting and his face turned ugly. Humph, a bunch of cowards! Fatty Pang glanced at the 2 ultimate gods and said with disdain. You! The 2 ultimate gods were immediately furious when they heard Fatty Pang's words, but they did not dare to act rashly. These people were not to be trifled with, especially the demon divine master. At that moment, the two ultimate gods recognized the demon divine master. They did not dare to be presumptuous in front of the demon divine master, as the demon divine master was in existence on the same level as their old ancestor. In the ancestral god realm, the ultimate gods were not the most powerful existences. Above the ultimate gods were the god ancestor and other types of supreme gods. Those existences were much more powerful than the god ancestor. Gu Fei learned of a major event from the ultimate god's soul memory. The sealed ancient divine palace was about to be revealed. At that time, only the Shao clan knew about it. The ancient divine palace was an extremely ancient thing. It was also the oldest legend among the 5 continents of the ancestral god realm. Moreover, the ancient divine palace was located in the depths of the heavenly domain battlefield. The palace was not spared from the battle back then. However, the palace could not be destroyed. Even a supreme god could not destroy such a thing. The ancient divine palace is about to be revealed? Gu Fei muttered to himself. What? The demon divine master, who was standing beside Gu Fei, was shocked when he heard Gu Fei's words. He knew about the existence of the ancient divine palace. The ancient divine palace was sealed in the depths of the heavenly domain battlefield. Since ancient times, not many people could find the legendary palace. Now that the ancient palace was about to be revealed again, the demon divine master was extremely excited. It was said that the ancient divine palace had countless treasures. However, no one had ever heard of anyone obtaining anything from the ancient divine palace. Boss, why don't we try our luck? Fatty Pang suggested. In that case, let's go and have a look, Gu Fei said. He was also very curious about the so-called heavenly domain battlefield. What opportunities were hidden in there that no one had discovered? Sun Ke had actually heard of the heavenly domain battlefield, but he had never had the chance to see it. Now that he had encountered it, he naturally did not want to miss it. Therefore, they headed straight for the depths of the battlefield. They carefully avoided all sorts of dangers and successfully arrived at a mountain peak. Gu Fei looked up and noticed that despite being in the chaos heaven's darkness, the surrounding vital essence was still being condensed. There seemed to be nothing in the region ahead. There were no strange sounds either. But even so, Gu Fei did not dare to be negligent. Instead, he became even more careful. No one knew what would happen the next moment, while traversing such a treacherous land. Let's set up camp here. On the mountain, Gu Fei turned around and said to the group. Boom! Just as Gu Fei's voice faded, a deep thunderous rumble sounded from ahead. Immediately following that, Gu Fei felt his feet shake as he nearly lost his footing. This is... Gu Fei and company could not help but be alarmed. It's about to begin. The vision before the ancient divine palace appears. Demon Divine Master said suspiciously. No one could answer such a question because even Gu Fei and company did not know what would happen next. They could only be extremely careful. At that moment, Gu Fei noticed many powerful figures had suddenly appeared in the nearby region. They were not the only ones who knew about the ancient divine palace's appearance. Not long after, the Shao clan had also arrived. Apart from the two ultimate gods, there was also an old man among the Shao clan's camp. Even the two ultimate gods did not dare to act presumptuously in front of the old man. It was obvious that the old man's status in the Shao clan was not low. A god ancestor! Demon Divine Master was shocked when he saw the old man. From the old man's aura, the old man's cultivation level had reached the return to simplicity stage. The Shao clan did not dare to find trouble with Gu Fei and company. Instead, they avoided them. Yes, the Yuan clan is here too, Fatty Pang suddenly said. Gu Fei and company turned around and saw many people from the Yuan clan. A middle-aged man caught his attention, and he could tell the middle-aged man's cultivation level at a glance. He was a god ancestor, an extremely powerful god ancestor. The Shao clan and the Yuan clan had been enemies for generations. However, neither the Shao clan nor the Yuan clan had the intention to fight at that moment. Personal grudges were not so important at that time as their respective enemies could not fight at that time. Of course, there were exceptions. In another direction, two enemies had just met and started fighting. Powerful energy fluctuations spread out, and the entire mountain range was shaking. From time to time, energy fluctuations would spread out from the depths of the mountain range. The ancient divine palace was about to appear. All forces were ready and everyone was waiting for the moment when the ancient divine palace would appear. The appearance of the ancient divine palace would inevitably cause a chaotic battle. It was inevitable to compete with other cultivators to obtain the items in the palace. The cruelty of the cultivation world was far beyond ordinary people's imagination. In order to be strong and to become the most powerful existence in the world, countless cultivators cultivated day and night to be immortal and live forever. However, that was absolutely impossible. One had to know that even supreme-level existences could fall, let alone ordinary people. Boom! At that moment, there was a loud noise as if the world was collapsing. An extremely terrifying energy fluctuation spread out in all directions. Chapter 33-24. The ancient divine palace was an ancient legend in the ancestral god realm. Some people believe that the palace had existed since the formation of the ancestral god realm. Traces of the palace could be found in every era of the ancestral god realm. Many people believe that the owner of the palace was a being from before heaven and earth was formed. The palace had been nurtured in the primal chaos for countless years. Of course, this was only one of the more reliable guesses among the countless guesses about the ancient divine palace. But what they could confirm was that the palace was very old. There might not be a second item as old as this in the entire ancestral god realm. Rumble! At this moment, the mountain peaks collapsed and fell into the ground. It was a scene of destruction. Even the mountain peak that Gu Fei and the rest were on was affected. Boom! With a loud sound, the mountain peak beneath Gu Fei and the rest sank. They had no choice but to fly up high into the sky. The ancient divine palace has appeared! Run! Countless god race experts screamed and turned around to flee. In an instant, countless divine lights shot up from the ground and turned into divine rainbows that shot into the sky. What are they doing? Gu Fei said in bewilderment. Oh no! Let's go! Demon God suddenly thought of something and hurriedly said to Gu Fei. He then turned and rushed into the sky. Could the legend be true? Fatty Pang's expression suddenly changed as he ran for his life. Gu Fei and Song Ke were stunned. Song Ke was originally a being from the ancestral god realm and had naturally heard of the legend of the ancient divine palace. Some people said that it was the origin of the gods. But Song Ke scoffed at these legends. He did not agree that an ancient divine palace was the origin of the gods. In Song Ke's era, the mainstream theory about the origin of the gods was that they were beings that were born from the primal chaos before heaven and earth was formed. Could it be? Song Ke suddenly thought of a legend about the ancient divine palace and was shocked. He then said to Gu Fei, "Looks like we have to hide for a while." What? Did something bad happen? Gu Fei looked at Song Ke and asked. He was even more curious. That's right. Legend has it that every time this palace appears, it will devour a large number of living beings. Song Ke told them what he knew. When Gu Fei heard this, he couldn't help but be moved. What did he mean by devouring a large number of living beings? At this time, the earth was still collapsing, and an incomparably huge black hole appeared on the ground. Then, with a buzz sound, the void let out a tremor. In the next moment, Gu Fei felt a powerful devouring force enveloping him in an instant, trying to pull him forward. The endless dust and divine light were swallowed up by an ancient divine palace in an instant. Gu Fei was taken aback. It seemed like those fellows knew that there was danger, so they immediately fled. Many divine race experts screamed as they flew towards the divine palace. They flew into the divine palace and disappeared inside. Roar! Gu Fei roared out furiously. A powerful chaotic force immediately erupted from his body in an attempt to break free from the devouring force around him. However, the devouring power was so strong that it exceeded Gu Fei's expectations. Even he was pulled towards the divine palace. Sun Ke was no exception. He was also pulled forward by the devouring power. Damn it! Sun Ke hurriedly circulated the divine Tao energy in his body to resist the devouring power. However, the devouring power was too powerful. It was definitely at the extreme Tao level. Fellow Taoist, hurry up and use the extreme Tao artifact! Sun Ke hurriedly shouted at Gu Fei. If he was devoured by this divine palace, he would probably die inside. One had to know that no one had ever come out after being devoured by a divine palace. Preposterous! Gu Fei didn't expect this ancient divine palace to do this the moment it appeared. If it wanted to devour a large number of living beings, wouldn't the living beings in the heavenly region battlefield be in trouble? As he was thinking, he flipped his right hand and an ancient cauldron appeared in his hand. An ancient aura that seemed to come from the primordial times immediately spread out from the mountain and river cauldron. At this time, Gu Fei was shocked to find that the ancient divine palace's aura seemed to be somewhat similar to the mountain and river cauldron. Although they tried their best to resist the devouring power above the ancient divine palace, Gu Fei and Sun Ke were still pulled forward by the devouring power. At this time, more and more divine race experts flew over from afar and were directly devoured by the ancient divine palace. The pitch-black palace gate of the ancient divine palace was like a bottomless black hole that could devour heaven and earth. In the eyes of the divine race, it was definitely the most horrifying palace gate in the world. Fellow Taoists, what are you waiting for? As they were constantly being pulled by the ancient divine palace, Sun Ke became anxious. He didn't want to be devoured by this legendary ancient divine palace. He wanted to live and become an extreme Tao God ancestor in the ancestor God realm again. If he had the mountain river diagram, he would have already attacked. Unfortunately, he had already given it to Gu Fei. Humph! Gu Fei snorted and directly smashed the ancient cauldron in his hand forward. The next moment, the mountain river cauldron instantly became as huge as a mountain. With a boom, it smashed onto the ancient divine palace and directly blocked the palace gate. Those divine race experts who were flying towards the ancient divine palace felt their bodies lightened. The horrifying devouring power that enveloped them had actually disappeared. Chapter 33-25. The appearance of the legendary ancient deity palace alarmed all the living beings in the heavenly battlefield. Even the old antiques who had long been indifferent to worldly affairs could no longer sit still. In that battle, the living beings in the ancient deity palace also seemed to have taken action. I didn't expect the palace to be in the heavenly battlefield. An old man whose hair and teeth were almost all gone stood on a mountain peak and looked at the place where the dust was rising into the sky. Although the old man's voice was not loud, it spread far and wide. After hearing the old man's words, the experts nearby were all extremely shocked. The battle back then was too tragic. Even a few Supreme God ancestors died and went missing. However, no one could have imagined that in that battle, even the living beings in the ancient deity palace actually took action and were buried in the heavenly battlefield. This heavenly battlefield was the battlefield of that battle back then. Whether it was the Chaos Demon realm or the Ancestral God realm, countless experts from both sides died on this battlefield. The heavenly battlefield gradually evolved into a dangerous place after countless living beings were buried there. Some old antiques who had lived for countless years even witnessed the birth of the brothers. There was no doubt that there was a supreme God buried in this dangerous place. The place where a supreme God died was a place that no one dared to enter. Even if there was no supreme God buried there, no one dared to enter. The ancient deity palace was such a place. No one dared to enter because all the living beings who entered never came out again. Today, the ancient deity palace finally appeared again. This time, it caused a greater commotion than the previous times. Once it appeared, it shattered the earth and wanted to devour all living beings. However, this time, the ancient deity palace seemed to have chosen the wrong time to appear. Buzz! At this moment, the mountain river cauldron blocking the entrance of the ancient deity palace vibrated. A supreme chaos primordial force immediately erupted from the mountain river cauldron. Boom! The two forces collided. The mountain river cauldron and the ancient deity palace shook at the same time. The power of the supreme Tao erupted and the entire void was annihilated. The mountain river cauldron and the ancient deity palace were both emitting extreme Tao patterns. In the next moment, the mountain and river cauldron separated from the ancient divine palace. When the mountain and river cauldron flew out, it disappeared and a disheveled old man appeared. What happened? An extremely powerful wave of divine thought immediately spread from the disheveled old man and instantly enveloped the entire heavenly battlefield. Gu Fei. The moment the disheveled old man discovered Gu Fei, he appeared before Gu Fei in a flash. I've woken up from my slumber. When Gu Fei saw the disheveled old man's sudden appearance, he could not help but be surprised and delighted. This disheveled old man was transformed from the cauldron of mountain and river. To a certain extent, the cauldron of mountain and river was also a life, a different kind of life. Under the control of the god of the cauldron of mountain and river, the cauldron of mountain and river could transform into a human form and walk the world like a real human. No one could recognize them. Of course, for an extreme Tao weapon like the cauldron of mountain and river, it could transform into any kind of life it wanted. It was a piece of cake. This place, this palace. At this moment, the disheveled old man transformed from the cauldron of mountain and river had already sensed everything around him. Is this the cauldron that suppresses heaven and earth? At this moment, a wave of divine thought came from the ancient deity palace. Perhaps there really was a different kind of life in this palace. An abandoned palace. The disheveled old man transformed from the cauldron of mountain and river turned around and stared at the palace that had existed since ancient times. He seemed to know the origin of the ancient deity palace. What did you say? When the life in the ancient deity palace heard the disheveled old man's words, a chilling murderous intent immediately exploded from the ancient deity palace. Haha, did I say anything wrong? The disheveled old man laughed. At this moment, he did not care about Gu Fei. At this moment, the ancient deity palace shook. Countless ancient Tao patterns appeared and intertwined on the palace, forming a mysterious Tao diagram. Very soon, a ball of divine light appeared, and the entire divine palace actually transformed into a strange beast that was as large as a mountain. This strange beast was the legendary heaven-devouring beast. This heaven-devouring beast was definitely a great accomplishment. Heaven-devouring beast. In the distant past, such an existence could definitely fight against an extreme Tao supremacy. But now, it had been refined into a palace. No wonder it wanted to devour a large number of life the moment it appeared. Seeing this scene, Gu Fei could not help but mutter to himself. He did not expect the original form of the ancient deity palace to be a heaven-devouring beast. It was truly unimaginable. Seeing the palace turn into a heaven-devouring beast, the experts of the god race were also dumbfounded. According to the legends, a palace that had appeared since ancient times actually had such a secret. This ancient deity palace also had a god, and the god was the heaven-devouring beast. Roar! The heaven-devouring beast roared furiously and opened its mouth in the direction of the disheveled old man. A heaven-devouring power immediately gushed out from the mouth of the gigantic beast, causing the stars in the sky to tremble as if they were about to fall from the starry sky. Chapter 33:26. In the sky region battlefield, the legendary ancient celestial palace had appeared. Some people said that this palace was the origin of the gods, but many people disagreed. Sun Ke did not agree with this. But at this moment, Sun Ke knew that this ancient celestial palace was indeed extraordinary. It was actually an extreme Tao treasure. The person who had refined this Tao artifact was indeed very generous. He had actually refined a palace into an extreme Tao artifact. This kind of extreme Tao artifact was truly special. At this time, the mountain and river cauldron and the ancient celestial palace were fighting fiercely. These two extreme Tao treasures could transform. The old man that the mountain and river cauldron transformed into was extremely powerful. He actually sent the heaven-devouring beast that the ancient celestial palace transformed into flying with a single punch. An adult heaven-devouring beast was a ruthless character that could devour the entire world with a single breath. After being refined into an extreme Tao treasure, this heaven-devouring beast became even more ferocious. Every time the ancient divine palace appeared, the heaven-devouring beast would devour a living creature. Therefore, with the appearance of the ancient divine palace, countless living creatures would definitely die. But this time, with the appearance of the ancient celestial palace, it could not go on a killing spree like in the past. Rumble! The heaven-devouring beast displayed its extreme battle strength. This unparalleled ferocious beast opened its mouth and sucked. The entire void suddenly collapsed and was devoured by this ferocious beast. Even the old man that the mountain and river cauldron transformed into flew towards the mouth of the heaven-devouring beast involuntarily. The old man struggled to break free from the devouring power of the heaven-devouring beast. But before he could do anything, the heaven-devouring beast had already devoured him. What? When Gu Fei saw this, he was really shocked. The old man that the mountain and river cauldron transformed into was devoured by this unparalleled ferocious beast just like that. How was this possible? Although the heaven-devouring beast could devour the world, the mountain and river cauldron was an extreme Tao treasure. It was not an ordinary Tao treasure. No matter how ferocious this heaven-devouring beast was, it could not devour the mountain and river cauldron. Very soon, Gu Fei knew why the heaven-devouring beast could devour that unreliable old man. It seemed that the old man was going to use underhanded means. Ha ha! After swallowing the disheveled old man that the mountain and river cauldron had transformed into, the sky-devouring beast immediately burst out laughing. Anything that it swallowed, even if it was an existence of the extreme Tao, had to be refined by it. It wasn't as if this heaven-devouring beast hadn't devoured extreme Tao-level beings before. Laugh all you want. You're going to cry later. Gu Fei hurriedly dodged far away. He reckoned that if the god of the mountain and river cauldron used a big move, he would be too unlucky to be affected. Indeed, as soon as Gu Fei dodged, the heaven-devouring beast that had devoured the disheveled old man stopped laughing. Not only that, it even let out a tragic cry. Roar! The heaven-devouring beast hugged its stomach and rolled on the ground. It then plummeted down from the sky. Boom! The entire ground quaked and caved in continuously. The shockwaves were too widespread. Other parts of the heavenly region battlefield were affected. In some places, there were even extreme Tao-level powers surging out. This was not the only forbidden ground in the heavenly region battlefield. There were also extreme Tao-level powers in other places. One had to know that the heavenly region battlefield was the main battlefield of that war back then. Even the extreme Tao demon ancestor and extreme Tao god ancestor had fallen here. Back then, the divine race and the demons had their final battle here. This was a devastated world that was formed from a part of the ancestor god realm and a part of the chaos demon realm. Only such a place could give birth to gods and devils at the same time. Of course, devils were the weaker race in the heavenly region battlefield. One had to know that the heavenly region battlefield was in the ancestor god realm, which was the lair of gods. At this moment, the heaven-devouring beast rushed out of the ground again. A terrifying extreme Tao aura spread out, causing the entire void to tremble. Everyone was stunned when they saw this scene. The mountainous heaven-engulfing beast opened its mouth and spat something out. It was a humanoid object, and the aura of the divine Tao emanated from it. This is... Gu Fei was shocked when he saw this humanoid object. It was one of the divine race experts that had been devoured by the heaven-devouring beast. This divine race expert had already fallen. His Yuan Shen had already disappeared. Even his divine body had almost melted away. However, his divine body still contained powerful essence qi of the divine Tao. At this moment, the heaven-devouring beast seemed to have eaten something wrong. It kept vomiting out everything it had just devoured. Roar! Old man, do you think you can defeat me like this? The heaven-devouring beast roared. Then, a ball of divine light suddenly rushed out from the heaven-devouring beast's forehead. It transformed into another heaven-devouring beast and rushed into its own body. That is, Gu Fei couldn't help but be moved when he saw this scene. The physical body of the heaven-devouring beast was formed from the primordial sacred palace, and the other heaven-devouring beast that rushed out of the heaven-devouring beast's forehead was a god. This was a truly ruthless character. The heaven-devouring beast actually wanted to fight against the mountain and river cauldron with gods. For an extreme Tao treasure, a battle between gods was the most dangerous battle. Once it was defeated, there was the risk of its soul dispersing. Many extreme Tao treasures had been reduced to scrap metal because the gods that were nurtured within them had fallen. After the god from the ancient celestial palace entered the heaven-devouring beast's body, the sound of wind and thunder could be heard. Powerful energy waves surged out of the heaven-devouring beast's body. What's going on? The divine race experts who did not know what was going on were puzzled when they saw the heaven-devouring beast standing motionlessly in the void. Why was the beast not moving? Only Gu Fei and Sun Ke knew what was going on. Even Venerable Demon God and Fatty Pang did not know why the beast had stopped. However, they could vaguely guess that the heaven-devouring beast might have eaten something wrong. It was no secret that supreme Tao treasures could transform. However, there were definitely very few people who had actually seen the transformation of supreme Tao treasures. Even those who had seen supreme Tao treasures were extremely rare, let alone those who had witnessed the transformation of supreme Tao treasures. Boom! Just as everyone was feeling bewildered, a huge hole suddenly exploded on the heaven-devouring beast's chest. A wave of primordial chaos energy erupted from the heaven-devouring beast's body. Although a huge hole had exploded on the heaven-devouring beast's body, there was no scene of blood splattering. No one rushed out from the hole either. Bang! Another dull thud sounded. The heaven-devouring beast's body, which was even larger than a mountain, began to shake violently as cracks appeared on its body. What? Chapter 33:27. The god of the ancient celestial palace was actually a sky-devouring beast. This was something that no one had expected. No wonder the ancient celestial palace had to devour a living creature every time it appeared. It seemed like the god of the ancient celestial palace was at work. Gu Fei and San Ke were really lucky. After crossing over from the chaos demonic realm, they immediately encountered the appearance of the ancient celestial palace, a major event that could shake the entire ancestral god realm. At this time, all the major forces in the ancestral god realm had already received the news. Countless experts had set off for the Sky region battlefield, and even some old antiques who had not shown themselves for a long time had jumped out. A battle between gods! What a pity! Gu Fei looked at the sky-devouring titanic beast standing in the void and could not help but sigh. He had never encountered a battle of this level before. It should be known that an extreme Tao treasure was a different kind of life form to a certain extent, and the god of an extreme Tao treasure was this kind of life form. A battle between gods of extreme Tao treasures was something that Gu Fei had never seen before. At this time, the sky-devouring titanic beast was constantly shaking, and a terrifying aura of extreme Tao exploded from its body. There were two forces clashing within its body. The two forces caused a strange phenomenon to appear in the sky above the sky-devouring beast. Two shadows were entangled in the sky, engaged in a fierce battle, trying to completely destroy the other. Are these two guys going to go all out? Gu Fei could not help but mutter to himself when he saw this scene. Although it was just a phenomenon, one could imagine that there was an incomparably fierce battle going on inside the sky-devouring beast. This battle was extremely dangerous. But Gu Fei was unable to help. His cultivation and battle power had not reached the extreme Tao level. Not to mention helping, even a little bit would be torn to shreds by the power of the extreme Tao, and both his body and spirit would be destroyed. Shwa! Gu Fei flipped his right hand, and a black saber immediately appeared in his hand. He wanted to awaken the sleeping god within the ominous saber. If that happened, the sky-devouring beast would be finished. If the mountain river cauldron and the peerless ominous blade were to join forces, perhaps no god in this world would be able to contend against them. They would be directly annihilated. Gu Fei immediately released his divine will in an attempt to communicate with the god within the ominous saber. However, he discovered that his divine will could not enter the ominous saber at all. He felt that there was a force on the peerless ominous saber in his hand that was repelling his spiritual fluctuations. Gu Fei was very anxious. He didn't believe it and tried a few times, but no matter how hard he tried, his spiritual force couldn't enter the interior of the peerless ominous saber. Could it be that after the god of the peerless ominous blade falls into a deep slumber, it's really hard to wake up? Naturally, Gu Fei knew that the god within the peerless ominous saber was in a deep slumber. In this state, the peerless ominous saber's god could only wake up on his own. Outsiders absolutely couldn't wake the god of the peerless ominous saber unless they were at the extreme Tao level. However, in this world, only the Jiang family's Renhuang and the supremacy of the nether blood sea of the primal chaos demonic world were supreme existences. Jiang Renhuang was an absolute supremacy, an imperial supremacy. As for the supremacy of the nether blood sea of the primal chaos demonic world, he was extremely mysterious. In the end, Gu Fei still couldn't awaken the god of the ominous saber. The ominous saber didn't respond at all. This made him extremely anxious, but there was nothing he could do. Rumble! The sound of wind and thunder from the heaven-devouring beast's body grew louder. Countless cracks appeared on its huge body, and a blinding divine light seeped out from them. What the hell is going on? The celestial experts hiding in the distance were indescribably shocked. Even some of the older celestial experts didn't understand, but they could more or less see what was going on. Sometimes, living a long life was also a kind of capital. Old man, you're on your own now. After saying that, Gu Fei took a long look at the heaven-devouring beast standing in the sky before turning around to leave. Stinking brat, lend me the ominous saber in your hand. Suddenly, a voice rang out in Gu Fei's mind. The owner of this voice was none other than the old man that the mountain and river cauldron had transformed into. In the next moment, Gu Fei felt the ominous saber in his hand shake. Then, the ominous saber flew out of his hand. Gu Fei was shocked. All he saw was the ominous saber turn into a beam of black light that flew towards the heaven-devouring beast. Then, it flew into the huge hole in the heaven-devouring beast's chest. Boom! In the next moment, before Gu Fei could react, the heaven-devouring beast's body exploded with a loud bang, turning into countless fragments. Countless fragments shot out in all directions. Naturally, many of them were aimed at Gu Fei. However, a ball of immortal light surged out from his body and blocked the fragments that were shooting towards him. It was the immortal armor that Gu Fei was wearing. One had to know that it was an immortal armor refined from sky-blue immortal gold. It could block an attack from an extreme Tao-level powerhouse. However, even though the sky-blue immortal gold armor that Gu Fei was wearing had blocked the flying fragments, the power of the fragments was still so strong that it made his blood churn. Gu Fei hurriedly retreated far away, not daring to get too close. If it wasn't for the sky-blue immortal gold armor that he was wearing, he would have been pierced by the flying fragments. The heaven-devouring beast's body had shattered. This was something that no one had expected. Countless flying fragments had pierced through the bodies of many celestial race experts. Countless celestial race experts screamed in pain as they fell from the sky. In an instant, countless celestial race experts had their bodies pierced by the exploded heaven-devouring beast's fragments. They died just like that. One had to know that those were fragments of an extreme Tao treasure. Even a hair-thin fragment could shatter one's soul. Even someone as strong as Sun Ke did not dare to be hit by those fragments. He had no choice but to retreat further away. Boss is amazing. He actually has 2 extreme Tao treasures, Fatty Peng exclaimed from afar. He was very envious of Gu Fei. Ordinary cultivators would never have the chance to see an extreme Tao treasure their entire lives, but Gu Fei had 2. 2? You're underestimating him, Sun Ke said disapprovingly. What? Fatty Peng's expression changed when he heard Sun Ke's words. Did Boss actually have more than 2 extreme Tao treasures? Chapter 33-28. Shattered. The ancient divine palace actually shattered. How was that possible? That was a Dao tool of extreme Dao level. How could it shatter just like that? All the divine race experts who witnessed this scene were in disbelief. One must know that the ancient divine palace had existed for far too long. It could even be traced back to the beginning of heaven and earth. Such a supreme Dao tool had actually shattered in front of everyone's eyes. Everyone felt that this scene was simply too unreal. Dao tools of extreme Dao were immortal to all the divine race in the ancestral God realm. They could not be destroyed and coexisted with the world. However, this scene had exceeded the understanding of countless divine race experts in the ancestral God realm. Only now did they realize that even Dao tools of extreme Dao could shatter. As countless fragments shot out in all directions, a figure charged out from the void. That person was wielding a black saber with a murderous aura. Who else could it be other than the disheveled old man transformed from the mountain and river cauldron? The old man was unparalleled in power. He brandished his saber and charged out in a ferocious manner. Rumble! The void between heaven and earth was annihilated. A huge hole appeared high up in the sky. The mighty destructive power caused the earth to sink. Pitch-black spatial cracks appeared in the void. When the ancient deity palace collapsed, countless fragments shot out in all directions, piercing countless small holes in the sky. The destructive power of the Dao tool was too strong. The entire heavenly region battlefield was affected. If it was not for the suppression of the Dao power, the entire battlefield would have been destroyed the moment the ancient divine palace shattered. Freeze! The disheveled old man let out a strange cry. A wave of primordial chaos power that could intimidate the 9 heavens and 10 earths immediately erupted from his skinny body. In just an instant, the void between heaven and earth seemed to have frozen. Those fragments that were still shooting out were fixed in the void. Everyone who witnessed this scene was indescribably shocked. Even those divine race experts who had retreated far enough felt their bodies tense up as if a huge mountain was pressing down on them. Even the powerful Tsunke and demon god felt the same. They also felt the immense pressure. The higher their cultivation, the stronger the pressure. Even Gu Fei had to retreat to avoid it. Gu Fei's sky-blue immortal golden battle armor radiated with divine light. It blocked most of the mighty deterrent force, allowing him to retreat with ease. Boss is really awesome! When Fatty Pang saw that Gu Fei was actually able to calmly retreat under the might of the extreme Dao, he was indescribably shocked. Trying to escape? Just at this moment, an enraged roar rang out. The disheveled old man wielding the extreme Dao ominous blade slashed towards the void beside him. An incomparably sharp saber light flashed by and a figure was sent flying by the disheveled old man's saber. Roar! A terrifying roar rang out, and an extreme force exploded, breaking through the sealing power of the mountain and river cauldron. Then, countless spots of light appeared in the void. Those specks of light were fragments of light. In the next moment, those glowing specks of light instantly gathered together, and a divine palace appeared in the void, emitting a powerful aura. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. The ancient divine palace, which they thought was broken, actually reappeared in front of everyone in an instant. Then, the figure that was slashed out of the void by the disheveled old man charged over and fused with the ancient god palace. Boom! The entire firmament seemed like it was about to explode. A terrifying aura of the extreme Dao erupted from the ancient god palace. The entire heaven region battlefield was shaking, and the stars in the sky looked like they were about to fall. The divine race experts who were watching from afar were shaken, and those with weaker cultivations directly fell from the sky. Even if the extremely powerful divine race experts were not smashed to death when they fell from the sky, they would still be covered in dust and dirt. Humph! The disheveled old man wielded the extreme Dao ominous blade and stared at the ancient god palace. His eyes were incomparably sharp. With a cold snort, he immediately disappeared into the void. Boom! In the next moment, a fist smashed heavily on the ancient god palace. Kacha! The ancient god palace was immediately smashed, and then it was directly sent flying across the sky. With a boom, it directly smashed a mountain peak. After smashing a mountain peak, the ancient god palace floated high up in the sky. Endless divine light rushed out from the ancient god palace, and ancient divine patterns appeared and interweaved on the ancient god palace. Buzz! The ancient god palace was shaking, and the cracks on it were rapidly disappearing. This was an undying divine palace. Even if it was smashed into pieces, it would still automatically recover. Of course, it wasn't impossible to destroy the ancient god palace. As long as they killed the god of the ancient god palace, which was the heaven-devouring beast soul, they could destroy the ancient god palace. But to kill the god of the ancient god palace was definitely not an easy task. The heaven-devouring beast soul had been refined into the ancient god palace for countless years as the god of the ancient god palace. There was no doubt that the god of the ancient god palace was powerful. However, the god of the mountain and river cauldron was not to be trifled with. The disheveled old man took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of the ancient god palace. Without any words, the disheveled old man directly slashed at the ancient god palace. A violent power instantly erupted from the extreme Tao ominous blade. Swish! Wherever the blade light passed, the void was silently annihilated. Old man, I won't accompany you anymore. The ancient god palace emitted a wave of divine will before the ancient god palace disappeared into the void, disappearing without a trace. The disheveled old man's blade slashed through the air. The blade light descended and instantly split the heavens and earth apart. A pitch-black spatial crack appeared between the heaven and earth. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. The power of the disheveled old man's blade was truly terrifying. Even a quasi-supreme martial artist would not be able to withstand his blade. One had to know that that was the power of the extreme Tao. If it wasn't for the disheveled old man's control, the power of the extreme Tao ominous blade would not have been as simple as leaving a spatial crack between the heaven and earth. After the ancient god palace retreated, the disheveled old man did not give chase. He wasn't really going to kill the god of the ancient god palace either. But when the news of the ancient god palace's reappearance spread, the entire ancestral god realm was shaken. Some of the older generation experts who had not shown themselves for a long time could not sit still anymore. In the eyes of countless god races in the ancestral god realm, the ancient god palace was immortal. It was once seen as the origin of God. If they could obtain the help of the ancient god palace, their cultivation would definitely increase tremendously. In fact, such a thing had happened in the ancestral god realm before. Precisely because of this, the experts of the ancestral god realm were both respectful and afraid of the ancient god palace. They all wanted the help of the ancient god palace, but they did not want to become its slaves. The reappearance of the ancient god palace would definitely set off a monstrous storm in the ancestral god realm. Because in the history of the ancestral god realm, every time the ancient god palace appeared, it would definitely cause a commotion in the ancestral god realm. Countless cultivators would fall. This time should not be an exception. Hence, those god race experts who were watching from afar quickly retreated. They had to prepare for the upcoming commotion so that they would not be caught unprepared. Soon, all the god race experts in the vicinity disappeared. Those guys ran really fast, Fatty Pang said. What's going on? Goofei said. Boss, you really don't know? Fatty Pang said doubtfully. What do I know? Goofei said, feeling baffled. His intuition told him that there must be a reason why those god race experts retreated so quickly. It was most likely because of the ancient god palace. The reappearance of the ancient god palace will definitely cause chaos. At this time, Demon God Sovereign walked over. It's good that the world is in chaos, Sankei said. He could not wait for the world to fall into chaos so that he could once again conquer the ancestral god realm. Sankei's intuition told him that the Chaos Golden Rock race was definitely doing badly in the ancestral god realm. In the past, the ancestral god realm was filled with experts. Without a supreme Tao god ancestor, how could the Chaos Golden Rock race defend their ancestral land? The ancestral land of the Chaos Golden Rock race was a rare treasure land. Even when the primogenitor of the Chaos Golden Rock race, Sung K, was still around, many experts coveted this treasure land. Ha, brother, you are right. It's fun when the world is in chaos. Fatty Pang laughed. As the saying goes, heroes are born in troubled times. The ancestral god realm had been peaceful for too long. Many people were used to a comfortable life. This was not a good thing for the cultivation world of the ancestral god realm. Compared to the chaos demon realm, the overall strength of the cultivation world of the ancestral god realm was inferior. If there was another war between the two realms, the ancestral god realm would probably suffer a terrible defeat. Although Fatty Pang was unreliable and frivolous, he had a clear understanding of the situation in the ancestral god realm. This was also the reason why he came to the heavenly region battlefield. In the entire ancestral god realm, only the heavenly region battlefield could train a cultivator into an expert. I don't care if it's chaotic or not. Bring us out of the heavenly region battlefield first, Gu Fei said. What he needed to do now was to enter the ancestral god realm and understand the current situation there. Then, he would look for the things he wanted. He was not willing to return to the mortal world through the Hell Dao. That way, he would not be able to return. Gu Fei was also ambitious. He did not want the force he built in the Case Demon realm to disappear just like that. It was a powerful force. He was originally an orphan and did not have any great ambitions. If he had not met his master, he would have died a long time ago. Chapter 33-29. All human beings had their parents. Even the sentient creatures that were born from the chaos also had their parents. The sky and the earth were their parents. Gu Fei was not born from a rock. He also had parents, but he was an orphan. When he met Wan Xianqing of the Taishian sect, he was brought back to the Taishian sect and accepted as a disciple. Wan Xianqing did not say much about Gu Fei's background. He only said that when the time came, he would naturally know. Therefore, Gu Fei buried his biggest secret in the depths of his heart until now. At this time, he felt that his cultivation had reached the level of a quasi-supreme master, and he was qualified to know about his background. However, his master, Wan Xianqing, had long passed away. Even his bones could not be found, because the Taishian sect had long become a thing of the past. The 9 Taishian peaks had also directly collapsed because of the appearance of the eastern region devil lair and completely disappeared from this world. The original place where the 9 Taishian peaks had been had turned into a devil's domain. It was a terrifying devil's lair in the eastern region of the human realm, which was the source of chaos in the eastern region. Moreover, the eastern region devil lair had been razed to the ground by Gu Fei himself. Perhaps no one in this world knew why Gu Fei's parents abandoned him. Gu Fei also knew that this matter could not be forced, and he could only rely on his luck. In a valley in the heavenly region battlefield, birds were singing and flowers were fragrant. Trees were lush, and there was even a spiritual spring. The spring water from the spiritual spring formed a small stream that flowed in the valley. In the stream, there was an unknown white fish that was 2 fingers wide swimming. Gu Fei and the others were sitting in a pavilion next to the stream. I didn't expect you to find such a place, Gu Fei said to Fatty Pang. He was very surprised because Fatty Pang had brought them to this valley. This guy's cultivation was not very high, but he had a lot of enviable resources. Is your clan's ancestor still alive? Sung K, who was sitting opposite Fatty Pang, suddenly looked at him and said, Of course my ancestor is still alive. What, do you know my ancestor? Fatty Pang looked at Sung K in confusion. He knew that a person who could talk to Gu Fei as an equal was definitely not an ordinary person. Although he did not know Sung K's background, he did not dare to slight him. No wonder. Sung K did not say anything else. What happened? Fatty Pang scratched his head in confusion. Seeing that Sung K was no longer paying attention to him, he did not dare to pursue the matter. However, a huge question mark appeared in his mind. However, he did not expect Sung K to really know the Pang family's ancestor. Fatty Pang couldn't guess the reason behind Sung K's question, but Gu Fei could guess a thing or two. The Pang clan was probably already a superpower in the ancestral god realm during Tsang Kei's era. The reason why the Pang clan was able to survive until now without being destroyed by other forces was because their old ancestor was still around. With the old ancestor of the Pang clan overseeing things, who could easily destroy the Pang clan. However, the Golden Rock clan was different. Back then, Tsang Kei led his clansmen into the Chaos Demon realm and was trapped in the mountain river diagram for countless years. Without Tsang Kei overseeing the chaotic Golden Rock clan, they were simply a piece of fat meat that everyone could have a bite of. It would be strange if they were not divided among those who wanted to eat the fat meat. However, Tsang Kei was no longer as anxious as before. He was not in a hurry to leave the heavenly battlefield. Countless years had passed, and what was going to happen had already happened. There was no point in being anxious. "Fatty Dragon, when are you going to take us out of here?" Gu Fei said impatiently. "Boss, we can't leave even if we want to at this time," Fatty Peng said with a troubled expression. "What's going on?" Gu Fei knew that there must be a reason for this. "He's right, it's impossible to leave the heavenly battlefield now," Monster God Venerable, who had been silent, suddenly said. "Even you said so? Could the heavenly battlefield be the same as the Black Demon Sea, a place where one can only enter but not leave?" Gu Fei said in surprise. "What, you've been to the Black Demon Sea?" Monster God Venerable was shocked to hear Gu Fei's words. The Black Demon Sea was much more dangerous than the heavenly battlefield. Although the heavenly battlefield was terrifying, it was not like the Black Demon Sea. The waves of the Black Demon Sea were enough to destroy everything. In the ancestral god realm, almost no one dared to go to the Black Demon Sea because it was bound to be a dead end. No one wanted to die. "I've been there," Gu Fei said directly. This Monster God and the others were shocked. This guy had actually been to the Black Demon Sea and was able to leave alive. They all wanted to know how Gu Fei did it. "What's the reason?" Gu Fei asked Monster God directly. He was also very curious as to why it was difficult for them to leave. "The heavenly battlefield is protected by extreme power, and it's not just one type of extreme power," Monster God said indifferently, and then began to explain. It turned out that the heavenly battlefield was formed by a small part of the Chaos Demon realm, and a small part of the ancestral god realm fused together to form this desolate domain. Immortals and demons existed in the heavenly battlefield at the same time. The power of both immortals and demons shrouded the entire heavenly battlefield. Usually, no one could pass through the layer of power of immortals and demons to leave or enter the heavenly battlefield. However, every once in a while, the power of immortals and demons that shrouded the entire heavenly battlefield would become very unstable. This was the best time to pass through the power of immortals and demons. If they missed this opportunity, they would have to wait for the next time. "How long until the next time?" Gu Fei asked. 3 days later at noon," Fatty Peng said. 3 days later. Gu Fei was a little surprised. It seemed like he still had to wait for 3 days. He didn't care, but he didn't know what Tsang Kei was thinking. Thinking of this, Gu Fei couldn't help but look at Tsang Quebec. Tsang Kei didn't say anything, and he seemed very calm. "That's it, we'll leave the heavenly battlefield in 3 days," Gu Fei said. Tsang Kei and the others didn't have any objections. After the demon god was subdued by Gu Fei, he didn't dare to contradict Gu Fei and didn't say anything. Fatty Pang naturally didn't care. The small valley of the Pang clan was very quiet. Apart from Gu Fei and the others, no one else appeared in the valley. Such a spiritual land was definitely rare in the heavenly battlefield. To be able to possess such a spiritual land in the heavenly battlefield, it was enough to show how powerful the Pang clan was. One should know that it was definitely not easy to guard such a spiritual land. 3 days passed by quickly. At noon on the second day, Gu Fei, who was sitting cross-legged on a boulder, suddenly opened his eyes and looked up at the sky. At this moment, he saw that the originally dim sky gradually became clear. 2 waves of power descended from the depths of the sky. Sure enough, Gu Fei then retracted his gaze and stood up from the boulder. He took a step forward and instantly disappeared from the boulder. Not a trace of him could be seen. At the next moment, a figure appeared in the pavilion. At this moment, Fatty Pang and the others were already waiting in the pavilion. At this moment, there was a shocking change in the sky. High up in the sky, the demonic aura was vast and mighty, and divine light was flashing. The tranquility of the heavenly battlefield was directly broken. At this moment, incomparably powerful figures began to appear everywhere in the heavenly battlefield. These people also wanted to leave the heavenly battlefield. Swoosh! At this moment, an expert of the divine clan soared into the sky and turned into a divine rainbow like divine light. He directly rushed into the rolling demonic aura and divine light in the sky. Above the sky, faint sounds of wind and thunder could be heard. "Let's go," Gu Fei said. Then, he turned his right hand and an ancient cauldron appeared in his hand. In the next moment, a wave of chaotic primordial energy surged from the ancient cauldron and enveloped everyone. Swoosh! At the next moment, a chaotic primordial light directly soared into the sky from the valley, directly rushing towards the vast demonic aura and divine light in the sky. The primordial chaos force wrapped around Gu Fei and the others, easily passing through the chaotic power of the Devil Tao and the Divine Tao, and directly exiting the primordial chaos force. The primordial chaos light then dissipated, and Gu Fei and the others appeared in the void. This is... At this moment, Gu Fei and the others discovered that they were actually in the boundless starry sky. The starry sky was dotted with stars, but they could not feel any signs of life. When they looked back, they discovered that the demonic and divine powers that enveloped the heavenly battlefield had become very unstable, which allowed them to sense the location of the heavenly battlefield. Under normal circumstances, even quasi-supremes could not sense the existence of the heavenly battlefield chariot, let alone enter the heavenly battlefield to train. At this moment, Fatty Pang took out a star chart and led Gu Fei and the others towards the ancestral god continent. Soon, Gu Fei felt a vast and boundless aura. A continent appeared in front of them, and the vast aura came from that continent. Ancestral god continent! At this moment, Tsing Ke suddenly muttered to himself. The ancestral god continent seemed to be the same as before, and not much had changed. However, he knew that this ancestral god realm, this ancestral god continent, was no longer a place that he was familiar with. Gu Fei and the others' speed was not slow, but they still flew in the starry sky for several hours before they truly approached the ancestral god continent. This was an unimaginably huge continent that had given birth to more than one divine supremacy. Gu Fei could clearly sense the imprints left by those extreme supremacy on the heavenly way. It was a little difficult for living beings in the ancestral god realm to become supremacy. Chapter 33:30. The ancestral god realm and the ancestral god continent were the center of the entire ancestral god realm. The ancestral god continent actually had another name, the central continent. It was one of the 5 major continents of the ancestral god realm. The ancestral god continent was also the largest continent in the ancestral god realm. The other continents added together couldn't compare to the central continent. The ancestral god clan's ancestral land was in the central continent. Only a superforce could establish a foothold in the central continent and conquer the 4 continents to establish hegemony. The current situation in the ancestral god continent, which was also known as the central continent, was somewhat unstable. The tripartite balance of power seemed difficult to break on the surface, but in reality, it wasn't necessarily so. Fatty Pang took the risk to enter the heavenly region battlefield in order to improve his cultivation and combat strength as quickly as possible. Otherwise, who would be willing to go to a place where they could lose their lives at any time? However, Fatty Pang's luck was really good. He was actually able to meet Gu Fei and Song Ke, and Gu Fei and Song Ke happened to need a tour guide. Therefore, Fatty Pang was able to befriend Gu Fei and Song Quebec. Fatty Pang was also very clear about his role, so he became a tour guide seriously. However, deep down in his heart, he also wanted to make use of Gu Fei and Song Quebec. Therefore, Fatty Pang directly brought Gu Fei and Song Ke into the Pang clan's ancestral land and warmly welcomed Gu Fei and the others. The Pang clan's ancestral land was a huge valley surrounded by 9 winding mountain ranges. The 9 mountain ranges were like 9 dragons, and the valley where the Pang clan's ancestral land was located was like the dragon pearl that the 9 dragons were fighting over. When Gu Fei arrived at the Pang clan's ancestral land, he was immediately attracted by the momentum of this world. At this time, Gu Fei and the others were standing on a mountain in the east of the 9 mountains. The entire ancestral land was in their eyes. 9 dragons fighting over a pearl, it's a magnificent scene, Gu Fei said. The 9 mountains around the Pang family's ancestral land were shaped like dragon heads, and the valleys were perfectly round, like a large pearl. This kind of terrain was not man-made, but naturally formed. The spiritual energy of the 9 mountain ranges was constantly gathering towards that huge pearl. The spiritual energy in the Pang clan's ancestral land was definitely denser than in other places. Cultivating in a place with abundant spiritual energy would naturally yield twice the result with half the effort. Haha, I didn't expect Boss to have studied formations as well. Fatty Pang laughed heartily. Gu Fei smiled and said, At our level, we are more or less involved in the path of formations. Although we are not formation grandmasters, we are not far from them. What fellow Taoist said is correct. At the end of cultivation, all cultivation techniques will lead to the same destination. However, there is still a certain level of difficulty in mastering them. Song Ke said. Although Gu Fei also understood array formations, he couldn't become an array formation master. One must know that not everyone could become an array formation master. At this time, the experts in the Pang clan's ancestral land already knew that Fatty Pang had brought a few distinguished guests back. The Pang clan was naturally surprised and happy. The ancestral god continent looked very calm on the surface, but everyone knew that it was only on the surface. Even the ancestral god continent was so turbulent, let alone the other 4 great continents. At this time, the 4 great continents were already in chaos. At this time, the Pang clan also felt a great deal of pressure. Once chaos appeared, even the powerful Pang clan would suffer a great impact and the consequences would be unpredictable. However, at this time, Fatty Pang had actually brought back so many peerless experts. This was definitely a timely help for the Pang clan. That is, in a pavilion in the Pang clan's ancestral land, an old man raised his head and looked at the mountain peak in the east. When he saw the people on the mountain peak, he was extremely shocked. Father, that little bastard Pang Long is too mischievous. He actually brought outsiders into our ancestral land without permission. Do you want me to catch that little bastard and let you deal with him? Behind the old man stood a fair and fat middle-aged man. This middle-aged man was wearing a feather robe and his body was faintly glowing with divine light. His appearance was 70% to 80% similar to Fatty Pang. Don't disturb them. The old man shook his head and said. He looked at the people on the mountain peak with a deep gaze. None of these people were weak, so they should not act rashly. In fact, the old man was also very confident. After all, this was the ancestral land of the Pang clan. Even if extreme Tao ancestor god came, they could still fight, not to mention these people were not extreme Tao god ancestors. Yes, father. The fair and fat middle-aged man replied. After watching for a while, the old man walked into the pavilion. Fellow Taoist, I'm going to leave for a while. Song Ke suddenly said to Gu Fei. You want to go? Gu Fei wanted to say something but stopped. He did not want to reveal Song Ke's identity. After all, Song Ke was once an overlord in the ancestral god realm. Even after countless years, there might still be people who remembered this chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestor. Song Ke had many enemies in the ancestral god realm. Once those enemies knew that he was still alive, they would definitely take action. Before figuring out the chaotic Golden Rock clan's situation in the ancestral god realm, Song Ke did not want to cause unnecessary trouble. Yes. Song Ke nodded. All right. Gu Fei looked at Song Ke deeply and said, Why, are you leaving? Fatty Pang looked at Song Ke in confusion. I have some things to deal with, Song Ke said. He did not want Fatty Pang to know about him. After all, he had only known Fatty Pang for a few days. Then, Sun Ke left the ancestral land of the Pang clan and disappeared from the ancestral god continent like a ghost. No one knew where he went. Gu Fei knew what Sun Ke was going to do. Sun Ke returned to the ancestral god realm for this matter. The chaotic Golden Rock clan's ancestor left, but Gu Fei and the demon god did not leave. They planned to stay in the ancestral land of the Pang clan for a while. The place where the 9 dragons fight for the pearl was filled with spiritual energy and a myriad of phenomena. Where could they find such a good place to stay? Subsequently, Gu Fei and the demon god met the Pang clan's patriarch, Pang Zhenhuan, under Fatty Pang's guidance. Fatty Pang was the grandson of the Pang clan's patriarch. When Gu Fei saw Fatty Pang's father, he almost laughed out loud. Both father and son were fat and looked very similar, as if they were made from the same mold. Fatty Pang's father was called Pang Tianming. Although he looked fair and chubby, his cultivation was not to be underestimated. He was an old ancestor-level existence. In addition to the Pang clan's patriarch, the Pang clan also had 4 great clan elders and an old ancestor. This was the Pang clan's strength. The patriarch, Pang Zhenhuan, was an extremely powerful expert. His cultivation was definitely not below Gu Fei's and was even stronger than the demon god. In a hall in the Pang clan's ancestral land, Gu Fei and the Pang clan's old patriarch sat down. "It seems that fellow Taoist Gu is cultivating the Chaos Divine Path," the old patriarch said. He could see that Gu Fei was covered in Chaos Divine Path at a glance. It was Chaos Divine Path, not something an ordinary cultivator could cultivate. "That's right." Gu Fei didn't hide it. "Fellow Taoist Gu is indeed powerful. The Chaos Divine Power is definitely one of the most powerful divine powers in the ancestral god realm," the old patriarch exclaimed. "You flatter me," Gu Fei said. The Pang clan was so polite to him. Could it be that they wanted to rope him in and make him work for them? Thinking of this, Gu Fei secretly shook his head. He wasn't someone who would be easily used by others. These people were destined to be disappointed. The other experts of the Pang clan in the hall looked at Gu Fei with envy, especially the 4 great clan elders. They looked at Gu Fei with drool almost dripping down their cheeks. In the ancestral god realm, a cultivator's physique was very important. What kind of physique one had would determine what kind of power one could wield. This was the unique characteristic of the ancestral god realm's divine path cultivation techniques. In the current ancestral god realm, there seemed to be no one with chaos physique. Among the countless cultivators, there wasn't even one with chaos physique. From this, it could be seen that cultivators with chaos physique were very rare. "Fellow Taoist Gu is from the outer domain?" The Pang clan old patriarch looked at Gu Fei and asked. "You can say that," Gu Fei said after some thought. "Fellow Taoist, why did you come to the ancestral god continent?" the old patriarch continued to ask. He was very curious about Gu Fei's purpose. "I'm just here to gain some experience," Gu Fei explained. "Fellow Taoist Gu is a guest from afar. Pang Long, you have to treat fellow Taoist Gu and fellow Taoist God Yao well, understand?" the old patriarch said to Fatty Pang, who was standing at the side. "Yes, Grandpa," Fatty Pang quickly replied. Subsequently, the old patriarch exchanged a few words with Gu Fei before standing up and walking into the back hall. The back hall wasn't a place one could enter casually. Since the old patriarch didn't invite Gu Fei in, Gu Fei naturally wouldn't follow him into the back hall so rashly. "Boss, let me accompany you around. The scenery here is pretty good." Fatty Pang smiled and walked towards Gu Fei. Gu Fei shook his head when he heard Fatty Pang's words. He had seen all kinds of scenery. The Pang clan wasn't the only place where the 9 dragons fighting for the pearl was located. Under Fatty Pang's guidance, Gu Fei and demon god Yao walked out of the main hall. However, just as they walked out of the main hall, a fireball directly fell from the sky towards the Pang clan's ancestral land. A terrifying and monstrous power fluctuation immediately descended. In that instant, all the experts in the Pang clan's ancestral land were alarmed. Figures rushed out of nowhere. The originally deserted Pang clan's ancestral land was now filled with extremely powerful figures. "This Gu Fei and Demon God Yao couldn't help but be shocked when they saw the scene. The Pang clan actually had quite a number of experts. At that moment, Gu Fei looked up to the sky and saw the fireball directly falling towards the Pang clan's ancestral land like a divine sun. The terrifying aura of destruction coming from the fireball made everyone's heart palpitate. Activate the formation. Chapter 33-31. Gu Fei and Demon God Venerable were guests at the Pang clan's ancestral land, but they saw a huge fireball falling from the sky when they came out of the ancestral palace after greeting the Pang clan's old patriarch. It directly fell from the sky toward the Pang clan's ancestral land. Enemy attack! Roars resounded from every corner of the Pang clan's ancestral land and spread throughout the entire ancestral land. Those were the voices of experts that even spread out of the ancestral land. Countless cultivators outside the Pang clan's ancestral land were shocked. Someone actually dared to launch a sneak attack on the Pang clan's ancestral land. How? How is this possible? At that moment, an extremely shocking sound of wind and thunder came from the sky as a terrifying and monstrous aura of destruction descended from the sky. Not only did the aura envelop the entire ancestral land, but it also enveloped the entire area where the ancestral land was located. Countless cultivators outside the Pang clan were shocked to the extreme as they witnessed the most shocking scene they had ever seen in their lives. A divine sun seemed to have appeared in the sky above the Pang clan's ancestral land. Moreover, the divine sun was falling from the sky as the clouds in the sky dissipated like snowflakes. The entire world seemed like it was about to be crushed by the divine sun. If the divine sun were to fall directly to the ground, it would definitely cause devastating damage and the entire area would be razed to the ground. Everyone who saw the scene in the sky was stunned. However, someone soon came to his senses. Run! Someone roared and turned around to flee into the distance. All the cultivators' expressions changed drastically as they turned around and rushed into the sky without looking back. No one dared to stay near the ancestral land of the Pang clan. The Pang clan was protected by the extreme divine formation. The fireball in the sky might not be able to destroy the ancestral land of the Pang clan, but it could destroy the area around the ancestral land. Although there were countless cultivators gathered around the ancestral land of the Pang clan, there were also a large number of mortals living there. The cultivators could escape, but the mortals could only watch the divine sun-like fireball fall from the sky. To the mortals, this was a battle between immortals. The mortals were destined to suffer. At that moment, the Pang clan's divine formation of the extreme path was activated. A huge light shield enveloped the entire ancestral ground of the Pang clan. The aura of the extreme path filled the air. All the living beings in the entire region were terrified to the extreme, as if doomsday had arrived. Who is it that dares to attack my clan? At that moment, a figure appeared in the sky above the Pang clan's ancestral land. It was a tall, stocky, white-haired old man. He was the Pang clan's old patriarch. The old patriarch of the Pang clan was the son of the old ancestor of the Pang clan. His cultivation base was so powerful that he was infinitely close to the extreme grade. However, the old patriarch of the Pang clan hadn't been able to take that step and become an invincible extreme grade ancestral god. At this moment, the old clan leader raised his head and looked up. His white hair danced wildly in the wind. His eyes were as sharp as the edge of a blade as he stared at the huge fireball falling from the sky. Extreme Dao level power! The old clan leader knew that someone was secretly plotting against the Pang clan. This was without a doubt, but who was it? The Pang clan had stood tall in the ancestral god realm for countless years and had naturally offended many people. It was not surprising that someone wanted to attack the Pang clan. At that moment, Gu Fei and Senkei stood outside the ancestral palace of the Pang clan and looked up at the scene in the sky. They couldn't help but be moved. Rumble! The huge fireball fell like a divine sun, bursting out a terrifying and monstrous aura of destruction. The void between heaven and earth cracked, forming a pitch-black spatial crack. If such a powerful blow directly hits the ground, I wonder how many living beings will perish. Gu Fei suddenly sighed and said, Mortals are just ants. It doesn't matter if they die. the demon divine Venerable suddenly said. Mortals are just ants. Gu Fei was a little unhappy when he heard the demon divine Venerable's words. One should know that he himself had cultivated from a mortal until now and became the strongest existence apart from the extreme great ancestral god. What are you if not ants? The demon divine Venerable said disapprovingly. Rumble. Heaven and earth shook. At that moment, the fireball that fell from the sky had begun to come into contact with the power of the Pang clan's great formation. The void was constantly annihilated. The Pang clan's extreme grade great formation operated crazily. Countless formation patterns immediately emerged on the layer of light shield. The formation patterns intertwined and formed a mysterious and unpredictable formation diagram. Swoosh! At that moment, Gu Fei took a step forward and instantly arrived high up in the sky, directly facing the terrifying power of destruction that fell from the sky. The demon divine Venerable was extremely shocked. He knew that the fireball could never destroy the Pang clan's extreme grade great formation, but it could cause a certain degree of damage. Boom! With a loud bang, the fireball finally hit the layer of light shield that covered the entire Pang clan's ancestral land. The terrifying power of the extreme grade great formation instantly erupted. The void above the ancestral land of the Pang clan exploded in an instant. Endless heavenly fire spread out in all directions, burning everything in its path into ashes. Rumble! The entire Pang clan's ancestral land shook. Exclamations and cries came from outside the ancestral land. The Pang clan's ancestral land was not in chaos, but every Pang clan clansman looked extremely solemn. All the clansmen of the Pang clan knew that the extreme Tao Grand Array in the ancestral land couldn't be broken. Even if an extreme Tao sovereign came personally, it wouldn't be easy to break the extreme Tao Grand Array, let alone a mere fireball. At that moment, the layer of light shield that covered the Pang clan's ancestral land shook and cracks appeared on it. At that moment, an ancient cauldron flew up from Gu Fei's hand. It was the mountain and river cauldron. The mountain and river cauldron directly turned into a divine light and rushed out from the cracked light shield. Outside the Pang clan's ancestral land, countless terrified mortals witnessed a horrifying scene. A monstrous fire surged out from the ancestral grounds of the Pang clan. Everything in its path was burned to ashes. It was a terrifying sight to behold. Seeing that the heavenly fire was about to reach them, the cultivators had already run away. Countless mortals could only watch the heavenly fire burn and wait for death. Help, I don't want to die. Where's the Pang clan ancestor? Come out and save them. I'm not willing to die like this. A woman with a child in her arms screamed at the sky. Her son's life had not even begun and he was about to die. How could she be willing? How could she be willing? However, at the critical moment when the heavenly fire from the ancestral land was about to burn countless mortals into ashes, an ancient cauldron appeared in the sky. In the next moment, the heavenly fire that was sweeping out stopped and frantically gathered toward the ancient cauldron in the sky. It was devoured by the ancient cauldron. Countless mortals cheered when they saw this. The feeling of escaping from death was indeed indescribable. The Pang clan's immortal spirit! Countless mortals knelt in the direction of the Pang clan's ancestral land. They thought that the legendary Pang clan's ancestor had saved them. However, they did not know that the Pang clan could not even take care of themselves at this moment. How could they save them? At this moment, the mountain and river cauldron continuously devoured the surrounding fire elemental power. The heavenly fire that was sweeping out was now rapidly being devoured by the mountain and river cauldron. The mountain and river cauldron was automatically devouring this unimaginably powerful fire elemental power. To the mountain and river cauldron, devouring this power could increase its own cultivation. The Pang clan's old clan leader could not help but be moved when he saw this. This Gu Fei was worth roping in. This ancient cauldron could actually devour extreme Tao level power. It was definitely an extreme Tao level divine tool. Even the old clan leader was jealous. However, he knew that the owner of this extreme Tao divine tool was Gu Fei. It was impossible for him to become the owner of this extreme Tao divine tool. Buzz! The mountain and river cauldron floated high in the sky and constantly vibrated. The ancient cauldron actually devoured more than half of the monstrous destructive power formed by the explosion of the huge fireball. This caused all the experts in the Pang clan's ancestral land to be dumbfounded. "Thank you, boss," Fatty Pang said to Gu Fei outside the Pang clan's ancestral court. After releasing the mountain and river cauldron, Gu Fei flew down from the sky. "It's nothing." Gu Fei waved his hand and said, "No matter what, boss, you saved countless mortals outside the ancestral land," Fatty Pang said. Fatty Pang said. He knew very well that if the heavenly fire was allowed to spread, all the living beings outside the ancestral land of the Pang clan would be burned to death. Countless living beings would perish. Of course, experts did not care about the life and death of mortals. However, Gu Fei was very concerned because he was a mortal. Gu Fei did not say anything. He only raised his head and looked at the ancient cauldron high in the sky. An hour later, the endless heavenly fire was completely devoured by the mountain and river cauldron. Then, it turned into a divine light that descended from the sky. It passed through the layer of divine light that enveloped the ancestral land and fell into Gu Fei's hand. "Haha, this feels great. If I do it a few more times, I won't have to worry about not being able to return to my peak state." A voice rang in Gu Fei's mind. It was the voice of the mountain and river cauldron's deity, the old man. Since the deity of the mountain and river cauldron had awakened, he did not go into deep slumber again. This was a good thing for Gu Fei. A few more times. Gu Fei was a little speechless. That was the power of the extreme Tao divine tool. It was not something that could be found easily. Sometimes, it really depended on luck to devour such a power. Swoosh. Chapter 33-32. Someone secretly made a move against the Pang clan. An incomparably huge fireball directly fell from the sky like a divine sun descending from the heavens, startling everyone. The Pang clan's ancestral land was protected by the extreme path formation. Even if the fireball displayed the fluctuation of extreme path power, it would not be able to break the protective formation of the Pang clan's ancestral land. Once the fireball fell from the sky and landed on the Pang clan's ancestral land, the Pang clan members in the ancestral land would not be affected. However, the area outside the Pang clan's ancestral land would be directly destroyed, and countless mortals would die because of it. Gu Fei did not want to see such a scene. He did not want to see the mortals suffer, so he took out the mountain and river cauldron and swallowed all the explosive extreme path destructive power into the cauldron. "I don't want to see this guy. Call me if there's such a good thing next time." The disheveled old man's voice rang in Gu Fei's mind. Then, the mountain and river cauldron in Gu Fei's hand disappeared and entered his body. At that moment, the Pang clan's old clan master, who had descended from the sky, could not help but twitch his eyebrows when he saw the ancient cauldron in Gu Fei's hand disappear instantly. "Brother Gu, I didn't expect you to have a legendary Tao tool." The old clan master was a little envious of Gu Fei for having such a Tao tool. One must know that ordinary cultivators would never see such a Tao tool in their lifetime. Hee. Gu Fei only smiled and did not say anything. The old clan master did not say much either. He just glanced at Fatty Pang, who was standing beside Gu Fei, and left. The Pang clan was facing a great crisis. If they did not handle it well, the Pang clan would be in danger. Fatty Pang then brought Gu Fei and the demon god to their residence. It was a pavilion used by the Pang clan to entertain distinguished guests. Fatty Pang left after chatting with Gu Fei for a while. It was not a trivial matter for someone to attack the Pang clan. Fatty Pang also wanted to know who had the guts to attack the Pang clan. For the next few days, Gu Fei and the demon god had nothing to do. They wandered around the Pang clan's ancestral land. There were places they could enter, but other places were blocked. There were many places in the Pang clan's ancestral land that outsiders couldn't set foot in. There were some special places that even members of the Pang clan couldn't approach. Gu Fei and the others saw the members of the Pang clan walking hurriedly in the Pang clan's ancestral land. The atmosphere in the ancestral land was very tense, and there were signs of a storm brewing. Could it be that the Pang clan has already found out who attacked them? Gu Fei muttered to himself. No matter who wants to attack the Pang clan, it doesn't seem to have anything to do with us. Monster God Venerable said disapprovingly. In his opinion, Gu Fei was like a passerby in ancestral dragon realm. He would eventually leave. Haha, you can't say that, Gu Fei said. He had a hunch that the attack on the Pang clan was just the beginning. The ancestral god realm that had been silent for countless years might be thrown into chaos. As the saying goes, heroes emerge in troubled times. Once the ancestral god realm was thrown into chaos, the structure of the entire ancestral god realm would change. Those sects and clans that had been passed down for countless years would not be spared. For some people, the chaos in the world was also a kind of opportunity, an opportunity for them to rise up. Of course, for Gu Fei, it didn't matter if the ancestral god realm was in chaos or not. The most important thing was that he could find what he wanted. Let's go out and have a look, Gu Fei said and walked directly to the entrance of the Pang clan's ancestral land. Monster God Venerable naturally had no objections. He followed behind Gu Fei at a moderate pace. Ever since he was subdued by Gu Fei, Monster God Venerable obediently followed behind Gu Fei and became Gu Fei's bodyguard. No one stopped Gu Fei and the others. They smoothly walked out of the Pang clan's ancestral land and passed through a mountain ridge. Countless buildings appeared in front of them. In the next moment, Gu Fei's divine sense rushed out of his body and instantly enveloped an area of tens of thousands of miles. The area was instantly enveloped by Gu Fei's divine sense. The aura of the human clan. Gu Fei sensed the countless human clan settlements around the Pang clan's ancestral land. Gu Fei was very surprised because he sensed that there were very few cultivators in this area, but there were countless humans. The human clan had the largest population in the ancestral god realm. The number of cultivators in the human clan who embarked on the path of cultivation was also the highest among the major clans. However, among the human clan cultivators, there were very few who were truly successful in cultivation. Even the Pang clan was not a pure human clan. If it wasn't for him, countless mortals outside the Pang clan's ancestral land would have suffered. At the thought of this, Gu Fei couldn't help but be angry. It seemed that those big shots really didn't care about the lives of mortals. I'd like to see who dares to look down on the human clan. Monster God Venerable saw Gu Fei's face turn a little ugly, and knew that someone was going to suffer. With Gu Fei's cultivation level, he didn't need to hide anything. The moment he had the intention to kill, Monster God Venerable sensed the cold murderous aura emanating from him. Gu Fei walked around the area outside the Pang clan's ancestral land. With the help of his divine sense, he roughly knew the situation in the nearby area. There were many cities in the mountain range, and the places where the cities were located were naturally where the human clan gathered. Soon, he brought Monster God Venerable to a city. It was a medium-sized city, and the city lord was naturally a member of the Pang clan. All the cities outside the Pang clan's ancestral land belonged to the Pang clan. Gu Fei and Monster God Venerable came to the city gate and saw 3 words written on the city gate. He naturally couldn't understand these words because they were ancient divine text. Even in the ancestral god realm, there were probably not many people who could recognize this type of divine text because this type of divine text had long been lost. A city. Monster God Venerable looked up at the 3 ancient divine texts on the city gate and couldn't help but frown. What did you say? Gu Fei looked at Monster God Venerable in surprise and said, I said it's a city? Monster God Venerable said, I know it's a city. Do I need you to tell me that? Gu Fei said snappily. Well, I mean, this is a city, and the name of the city is a city. Monster God Venerable quickly explained. He didn't dare to make Gu Fei unhappy because his life was in the other party's hands. A city? You recognize the ancient divine text on it? Gu Fei was shocked after hearing Monster God Venerable's words. One should know that this type of ancient divine text had been lost even in the ancestral god realm. Of course I recognize it, Monster God Venerable said. This type of ancient divine text was still in use in the era when he made his debut, but later on, this type of ancient divine text was lost. I know, so you're an old antique. Gu Fei suddenly understood. Although the ancient divine text was lost and no one in the entire ancestral god realm still used this type of ancient divine text, some old antiques in the ancestral god realm had lived for countless years and naturally recognized this type of ancient divine text. Monster God Venerable glanced at Gu Fei and didn't say anything. Haha, okay, let's go in and have a look. A city, this name is very interesting. Gu Fei smiled and strode into the city gate and came to the main street of the city. The street was crowded with shops on both sides of the street. However, Gu Fei found that there were very few cultivators in the city. There were no cultivators walking on the street, only the aura of cultivators seeped out from the city lord mansion. Monster God Venerable followed behind Gu Fei. He was very puzzled as to why this guy came here. The city was full of mortals. Why bother with these mortals? Cultivators were high and mighty. In the eyes of cultivators, mortals were just ants under their feet. However, at this time, Gu Fei seemed to have become a mortal, walking on the street and bargaining with the mortals who set up stalls from time to time. Gu Fei seemed to have blended into the crowd of mortals, seemingly enjoying the pleasures of being a mortal. In the eyes of the demon divine Venerable, it was unbelievable that Gu Fei would do such a thing. Such a powerful existence was actually dealing with mortals. What benefits does Gu Fei get by doing this? Monster God Venerable was very curious. In fact, Monster God Venerable really couldn't guess the purpose of Gu Fei's actions because he was used to being alone and was high and mighty. To him, there was no difference between mortals and ants. At this time, Gu Fei arrived in front of a shop that sold all kinds of elixirs. Of course, these elixirs were all low-grade elixirs. Gu Fei walked into the shop and walked around. He found that the shop wasn't big, but there were many kinds of elixirs sold. Of course, the elixirs that could be taken out for sale were naturally not heaven-defying elixirs. Just as Gu Fei was about to leave, there was a tremor under his feet. The next moment, the entire shop collapsed with a boom, burying Gu Fei and Monster God Venerable underneath. At this time, the pedestrians on the street outside were all extremely frightened, screaming and fleeing in all directions. Endless heavenly fire descended from the sky. The city that was originally fine was instantly enveloped in endless heavenly fire. Countless mortals who couldn't escape in time were directly burned to ashes. Roar! A roar came from the city lord's mansion. Immediately after, a figure rushed out of the city lord's mansion and soared into the sky, attacking the guy in the sky. Two figures moved quickly in the sky, and the dull sound of collision was constantly heard. Soon, the city lord of the city was blasted away. The figure surrounded by flames was extremely powerful, and directly chased after the city lord. How dare you! The city lord roared, and a tyrannical power immediately erupted from his body. He stabilized his body, and his body was surrounded by divine light like a peerless god of war. Kill! Kill! Chapter 33:33. Gu Fei and the demon god came to a city outside the Pang clan's ancestral land. They concealed their aura and strolled around the city like mortals. The demon god had never tried to walk around the city like a mortal, so he was not used to it. However, Gu Fei was different. He had experienced the mortal world and sealed his cultivation. As a mortal, he had experienced all kinds of life, birth, aging, sickness, and death. Such experience had tempered his state of mind, making his life more fulfilling and perfect. This was something that couldn't be reflected by blindly cultivating and blindly competing with others. Therefore, Gu Fei was able to blend into the marketplace and mingle with the mortals. In the eyes of the demon god, it was incredible. The Gu Fei in front of him seemed to have become another person. The demon god had an illusion that the invincible expert who fought against the three great ancestor-level existences in the heavenly domain battlefield that day had disappeared. However, Gu Fei and the others didn't stroll around the city for long before an expert suddenly arrived. Endless heavenly fire fell from the sky and fell on the city. Countless mortals in the city who couldn't escape in time were instantly burned to ashes by the heavenly fire. Countless houses collapsed. Cries, screams, and roars filled the city. The city was shrouded in fire. Gu Fei stood on the street in the city, and couldn't help but be furious when he saw the scene. His good mood was instantly replaced by anger. Who dared to kill mortals wantonly? Boom! At that moment, a pavilion not far away suddenly collapsed. On the street below the pavilion, a little girl was crying while holding a toy. The pavilion collapsed, and countless bricks and stones fell from the sky towards a little girl on the street. Child! At that moment, a woman ran toward the little girl like a madwoman, completely disregarding her own safety. That was motherly instinct, a great mother. For the little girl, the mortal woman knew she would die, but she still rushed over without any hesitation. Many people couldn't help but shake their heads when they saw this scene. Countless bricks fell from the sky, and they could vaguely see the mortal woman holding the little girl in her arms. No one could bear to watch any longer. Boom! Countless bricks and stones fell down, instantly burying the mother and daughter. Yes. At this moment, the demon god discovered that his master, Gu Fei, had disappeared. The demon god watched the scene unfold, but he did not make a move to save the mother and daughter. As a supreme ancestor-level existence, the life and death of mortals were nothing in the eyes of demon god Venerable. He showed absolute indifference towards them. At this time, the people who had escaped to a safe place thought that the mother and daughter were dead for sure. However, boom! With a loud bang, the pile of bricks that buried the mother and daughter suddenly exploded. All the bricks instantly turned into dust, and a ball of divine light flew out from the dust that pervaded the air. It's a god! A god has appeared! When the mortals on the street saw this scene, they immediately cheered. We're saved! A god has appeared! All the mortals nearby were extremely excited. Everyone knew that there was a god in Nine Dragon Mountain, but the god wouldn't easily show himself. Those cultivators who could fly in the sky and burrow underground were omnipotent gods, in the eyes of the mortals in the ancestral god realm. However, gods were an unreachable existence for mortals. At this time, the ball of divine light wrapped around three figures flew out from the dust and landed on the street that was not on fire. When the divine light dissipated, three people appeared. One of them was a black-clothed young man, while the other two were dumbfounded. They stood beside Gu Fei, staring blankly at the mother and daughter pair. Preposterous! The young man in black was naturally Gu Fei. He raised his head and looked at the two fast-moving figures in the sky. He immediately recognized the person in the fire. It was a middle-aged man surrounded by heavenly fire. This middle-aged man was like a god of fire. He was fighting with the city lord, and the city lord seemed to be no match for the middle-aged man. He was constantly being pushed back, and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Damn it! Gu Fei waved his sleeves, and the raging fire in the city was instantly extinguished. Then, he directly soared into the sky. The mother and daughter still hadn't recovered from their shock. Their bodies were trembling, and they were quite frightened. At this time, Gu Fei had already arrived in the sky, and directly reached out to grab the middle-aged man. The middle-aged man covered in heavenly fire was suppressing the city lord. He was about to kill this guy, but at this time, he felt his body tighten, and his whole body involuntarily flew backwards. What? The middle-aged man's shock was no small matter. He quickly turned around and saw a black-clothed young man with a murderous look on his face rapidly approaching him. No, it should be that he was quickly approaching the black-clothed young man. Roar! The middle-aged man continuously roared in anger, and he crazily activated the divine power in his body. Boundless heavenly fire exploded from his body, and it was as though a divine sun had appeared in the sky. The heavenly fire burned half the sky, and even the void was annihilated. Every strand of hair on the middle-aged man's head emitted wisps of heavenly fire. However, no matter how hard the middle-aged man tried to activate his divine power, he couldn't break free from the devouring power that enveloped him. How is this possible? This time, the middle-aged man was scared out of his wits. Naturally, Gu Fei wouldn't be merciful.